Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC 303. Producer Megan is on the sticks. Cody Safdie is on the line. Producer Megan on the sticks for the last time. She's moving on to bigger and better things out in the La Belle Provence. So we wish her well. It's been good having her along. We'll have producer Jared, I believe, stepping in, starting next card. I think there's a week off in between. Anyway, Cody. We were supposed to have a Conor McGregor card here. We do not have a Conor McGregor card here. There's still a lot of very, very entertaining fights and probably some decent spots to get down some action. So, I don't hate it from a betting perspective compared to, some pay-per-views. And because some of these fights were, a little bit late to get added, I feel like there's probably still some meat on the bone here.
Yeah. Well, it's a pay-per-view offering, so they're charging people that additional price point. They got to make it worthwhile. And of course, they sold tickets to this as a Conor McGregor event, and you can't just have that one singular fight, because if it gets canceled, then the whole card's no good. So they at least put pieces in place. I know a couple of people are still dissatisfied it's not Conor McGregor, but you still got Conor McGregor light, Ian McGarry on the card. And I don't know, there's just some good fights overall. And of course, if you got a pay-per-view and the card is kind of shit, who you gonna call? Payton. He steps up and he saves main events, and that's exactly what he's going to do here. So good looking card as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, he's definitely been kind of like the UFC savior, out of nowhere. Just if you told us
he's ready to go at all times.
If you told us 2 years ago that he was going to be the go-to guy to come in, you'd be like, what happened to Hamzat? And it's just let me tell you something. Hamzat basically doesn't even fight anymore, may retire. You'd be like, what? The guy who was going to fight everybody. It's a crazy sport. Crazy sport we break down every single week. Over on Underdog, Pat asked me to tell you guys that there's a free square. Alex Payton Pereira over 0.5 significant strikes. Links in the description. If you use promo code MAYO, you get a match up to $250 on your first deposit. Anyway, let's get into the main event. We've got Alex Pereira taking on Jiri Prochazka. Alex Pereira is a minus 130 favorite. Prochazka can be had for plus 110. Rematch that was really not all that long ago. What was it? UFC 295, UFC 296. MSG that they fought each other. Pereira finishes him in the second round. Jiri had some moments, but I think the most interesting thing of how is Jiri going to adapt to this matchup is his karate stance, his style. I know he's switching stances all the time, but it's his left leg when he was standing orthodox was just getting chewed up from the moment the first bell hit. He landed some good shots. He had step-in uppercuts. He got a takedown and was able to get some top control at the end of round one. But I feel that... what's his answer to the leg kick? Because I'm kind of surprised that Pereira, after finishing him, after getting taken down early when they were dry and not getting submitted with it was 2 minutes that he was on his back there. Surprised that this market is moving closer to a pick'em, to be perfectly honest. He was minus 150 yesterday. He's minus 130 right now as we record this podcast. It's Pereira for me. What about you?
Yeah, it's getting closer to a pick'em because it's just going to be a straight up firefight. That's what everyone's expecting. And when every time Jiri steps in there, he's pushing the pace and he's throwing for it. And yeah, I think Pereira's the cleaner striker. Yeah, Pereira's already defeated this man once. Why not go do it again? Yeah, I'm picking Pereira, but there's no doubt about it that it's not going to come easy because Jiri's constantly pushing that pace. The last time they met, you got to keep in mind that Jiri's coming off a 1.5 year long layoff with an apparent career-ending shoulder injury, so that's not the best version of him. And yeah, his leg gets chopped up, but as you mentioned, he has moments. He lands that overhand right a few times. He lands a good couple combinations. His kick game is flowing. He pushes more of a pace. Pereira's got the heavier strikes, the cleaner blows. That left hook is deadly. Those leg kicks that he's throwing off all the first round are very heavy set, but he doesn't throw as much volume as Jiri, who's a madman just constantly coming forward. The takedown, a little bit misleading. I don't think it's going to happen again. When you look back at Pereira now, almost a year ago, not that long ago, but almost a year ago. He tries to defend that takedown off the cage by grabbing a guillotine choke. And the commentator's like, oh, I think he's got it. He's a kickboxing champion. He's not going to guillotine choke him, but you should dig the underhook, not chase that guillotine. And that's what gets him taken down. As you mentioned, 2 minutes on his back, defends everything, doesn't let his guard get past, doesn't take any insurmountable amount of damage, gets back up, all good stuff, and then never gets taken down after that point. So now give him another year. Now give him that ability to go back and say, well, why did I get taken down? Probably because you grabbed the guillotine choke and allowed him to grab double underhooks. Regardless, go back and learn. I think this thing is going to be an absolute, just a gunfight. Now, when you look at Pereira, he wins that fight, and then he takes a short notice fight with Jamal Hill, which he knocks him out in the first round and looks good. And now he's coming back into this one not that banged up. You got Jiri. Yeah, he had this long layoff. If you want to say, well, this is going to be a better version of Jiri that shows up this time. Well, he had that fight with Alexander Rakic on the same night. And Paul, you know as well as I do, that fight wasn't going his way, man. Same thing. It's the leg kicks. Rakic uses these heavy leg kicks early. What it causes Jiri to do is because he's got that long karate stance and he's got his hands are low at all the times. His lead leg just getting chopped up. He stumbles a few times. He likes to switch stance, but he's forced to switch stance because his lead wheel is getting blown out. Not only that, because he's got low hands, Rakic hits him with a number of dirty right hands and a number of dirty left hooks. Now, the commentators even mention it. They're like, Jiri doesn't seem to care about, he's given no respect to Rakic's power. He's walking right through these shots because his leg's done. He knows he's just got to make it a brawl, and he doesn't care about what's coming back at him, so he makes it a brawl, and he ends up catching Rakic and knocking him out. Yep. You don't do that against Pereira. Oh, your lead leg's gone? I'm going to make it a brawl. Dog, you tried that the last time. In fact, that's pretty much exactly what happened the last time. And you walked into a nasty counter left that put you on your ass. He followed you on the ground. I don't know. You could say early stoppage or not early stoppage. The fight out.
He was in mount.
He's in full mount. He's in full mount, raining down elbows. This thing's not getting any better. It's only going to get worse. Now, one thing I did notice is in the last time they fought, Pereira looks tired in that second round. Like, I don't want to say he's gassed, but like he's slowing down, which is weird to me because he had fought 5 rounds with Jan Blachowicz the fight prior to that one. So, like, if his cardio's on point, he was tired of that one too, but it was a grinding, grueling 25-minute fight. This one, it's into the second round of a fight that's not overly grueling. Yeah, Yuri's pushing a pace, but it wasn't deep waters grueling. That made me a little bit nervous because, again, Yuri's not going to stop coming. So you better switch his lights off. You better put him out. Because we've seen him even in his own fight with Glover Teixeira, choking him out in the 5th round. At no point will this man stop coming at you unless you put him away. So, you could be Team Pereira, you can be on Alex Pereira, you can marvel about what is Alex Pereira. But again, here's a near 37-year-old man who's fought a lot in his career, has been knocked out, fights a fairly dangerous style himself, taking on a madman in the prime of his life by the age. He's only 31 years old. In the prime of his life, who's going to deliver a hell on wheels performance and is at no point going to quit on himself. So it's going to be a greasy fight. We got to go with the cleaner, more refined, more polished striker. And again, Pereira had 10 pro fights when he fought Jiri last. I know it's only 2 fights later or whatever. There's not a ton of time that's passed, but you're seeing him start to get a lot more comfortable. You're seeing him truly become a mixed martial artist. And as you mentioned, become that go-to guy for the UFC that they can rely on. He's always in shape. He's always ready to go. And I expect him to clean cock Jiri in a wild brawl that probably earns a fight of the night, some type of bonus. We're going to be puckered up the entire time. I can't put Alex Pereira on my top ticket unless I'm going to hedge because I know this is going to be a wild encounter, but I do think he wins and he is the pick.
The only correction I will have for you is that that Jan versus Alex Pereira was a 3-round fight.
Oh, wow. You know what? I am worried about the cardio of Pereira, if we're being honest. Like, that was the one note I had was he can slow down and get overwhelmed, and Jiri is a don't slow down and constantly overwhelming. It's the fact that he keeps both of his hands by his side and his lead leg straight out and walks straight into the pocket that Pereira is going to catch him at some point. He's going to be his own demise.
By the stats, Pereira outstruck Jan 35-26, in fairness, in round 3. So, but yeah, you got taken down and controlled for 4 minutes and 50 seconds. I mean, if Jiri comes out and like gets a takedown immediately, we haven't seen.
I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, he probably, minds, but like he ate so many leg kicks early in that fight that it's just like he knew that like he couldn't fight at range and absorb too many more of those. So I think it kind of like forced him into a gunfight. I mean, if Jiri comes out, shoots for a takedown immediately, that could flip the fight on its head a little bit. Like, that's why I'm a little bit cautious about Alex Pereira. He is the pick. I will end up with some money on him for sure, but yeah, it by no means is it a hashtag lock. All right, moving on down, we got Diego Lopes taking on Brian T-City Ortega, minus 135 for Diego Lopes. Brian Ortega can be had for plus 115. Who you got?
Okay, so the fade train's going to roll into town here. We're going to go with T-City to take out Diego Lopes, and who's just got a ton of momentum behind him and a ton of hype and a ton of respect, and that's led him to becoming the betting favorite over Brian Ortega. I don't personally see it. Got to roll out. Now, again, people always say, like, man, you just shit on this guy's career. And, like, I don't mean to. I just got to poke holes at what Diego Lopes does to give myself that confidence in why we're rolling with Brian Ortega. Again, this guy, he's 29 years old, so he's not some hot prospect that came out of complete left field. He's a tenured veteran. He spent the vast majority of his time on, like, the Mexican regional, South American regional, fought for Lux, fought for Combache, fought that ilk of talent. And yeah, he's a finisher. He's a potent finisher. Finishes guys mostly in the first round, mostly in the second round. Nasty jiu-jitsu, BJJ black belt. You all know how good his ground game is. Striking, it's coming along. But the dude's Mexican. He throws heat. He can take a hell of a punch. At no point does he really get off that South American scene other than one fight, ACB Young Eagles against Emir Elsmerkayev, who stuffs his takedowns and beats the crap out of him, TKOs him, right? So that was the one time he got off of that South American regional scene. Didn't have any success. But back on the regional scene, racks up the wins. He can beat those guys. Comes back on the Contender Series, takes on Yanis and Brito. Now, that Yanis and Brito fight, he got taken down 4 times, okay? As much as he's got some world-class ground game, not like it gave Yanis and Brito any problems. The thing is that he has no takedown defense. He's so comfortable largely pulling guard on these guys. He almost lets them take him down. And that's fine and good on the regional scene. But at some point in the UFC, and we'll talk about his UFC wins, some point in the UFC, you can't just allow these guys to get on top of you. So Brito takes him down, it's 3 times, technical decision, but I don't know. He looked okay, doesn't get the contract. Comes back on short notice against Movsar Evloev. Now, Evloev is supposed to take on Bryce Mitchell, okay? Mm-hmm. Lopes is coming off a win over a guy on the regional scene who's 10-10. He had competed on the Combat Jiu-Jitsu World Championships, and I got rear naked choked in a minute and a half, and he lost a split decision to Keith Richardson. If Keith Richardson sounds familiar, he just got knocked out in a bare knuckle boxing match this past weekend, and then start fighting the ref because he didn't know where he was. So again, that's a 27-year-old Diego Lopes, and he has not broken over the barrier. Like, he takes that short notice fight with Evloev because he's not prior signed to the UFC, and he happens to lose, but put on one hell of a memorable performance. Again, another situation where he gets taken down 4 times by Evloev, largely controlled, but when he was striking, he was throwing heat. And when he was on his back, he was constantly looking to lock up an arm or lock up a triangle, hit a scramble, make something happen. It's a fun performance, but you see that a smothering wrestling type guy can still just neutralize a lot of these positions and win the fight, which Evloev did. Then they book him. This is his run. They book him against Gavin Tucker. Gavin shoots the takedown. Lopes also does pull guard into it, right into a triangle armbar. Why Gavin shot the takedown? Don't know. But he shoots right into a triangle armbar. That's win number 1. Gavin Tucker has been released from the UFC, never cracked into the top 15 in the division. His next fight's Pat Sabatini. Pat Sabatini should have done exactly what Gavin Tucker did, but he doesn't. Sabatini, a former All-American wrestler and BJJ black belt out of Renzo Gracie, Philadelphia, decides, I want to stand and bang with this guy. Bad decision because he's a bad striker who's very chinny, and he gets caught. And then the fight with Sodiq Yusuff. Sodiq Yusuff has never cracked the top 10. He has no signature victories in his career, and he's lost every time he's taken that step up in competition. That's Lopez's biggest win is Sodiq Yusuff, okay? But it's important to note that Sodiq Yusuff, kind of a bust. He's really not that good. And the punch that drops him, dude, it's like they grab the clinch and he throws a little shuffle uppercut that's sloppy that most guys eat for breakfast, and Sodiq just crumples to the ground because he's probably done at this point. And Lopes is now everybody's baby. This guy is the next future world title challenger. Got to get some action on him. So from my perspective, his striking really still isn't all that good. You could say he did knock out Pat Sabatini and Sodiq Yusuff his last time out, but really it's not really all that impressive. Now the guys were ranked in the top 10. Now the guys are known for their durability. You just chin check 2 guys that were a little bit chinny. Fair. His wrestling, still not good. Offensive wrestling's not good. Defensive wrestling's not good. One has to wonder if that's not an element that Brian Ortega can also capitalize on. And then his jiu-jitsu, it's world class. I can't take that away. It's world class for mixed martial arts competition. I can't take that away from him. But again, he's matched up with Brian Ortega that's arguably got better jiu-jitsu, if not good enough. When we look at Brian Ortega, meanwhile, that last fight against Rodriguez. Okay, first of all, let's talk about that competition. We know Lopes fought mostly soft guys, and then in the UFC, he's on an incredible 3-fight winning streak over Pat Sabatini, Gavin Tucker, and Sodi Yusuf. Incredible stuff. When you look at Brian, his last 2 fights are against Yair Rodriguez, a former interim champion and a former world title challenger. Alexander Volkanovski, former world champion. Chang Sung Jung, former world title challenger. Max Holloway, former world champion and current BMF world champion. Frank Yeager, former world champion. Cub Swanson. Swanson never actually fought for a belt, but he was a perennial top 5 guy a long time. And Renato Moicano, who first guy to beat Moicano. Moicano now fights up at 155 and does pretty good for himself. So, like, all Brian has done is fought the best guy. All he's done. How do you think his career would have looked if he was fighting Gavin Tucker and Sodi Yusuf? I think it would do pretty goddamn good. So, yeah, I mean, if we're looking at experience, Ortega's got it all day long. Okay. Now, people will say, well, Brian Ortega's not a very good wrestler. And they'll look at the number of 27% takedown accuracy in the UFC. Fair. That's the early part of his career. Since then, he took down Yair Rodriguez 3 times his last time out. Yair Rodriguez once the time before that. Volkanovski down twice the fight before that. Chang Sung Jung 3 times the time before that. Max Holloway down twice for that. 5 straight fights with at least 1 takedown, including Max Holloway, some of the best takedown defense in divisional history, Chang Sung Jung, brick wall, Alexander Volkanovski, dare I say more, and twice over Yair Rodriguez. So, like, he gets the takedowns, and we know that Diego Lopes gives you the takedowns. And what's Lopes going to do? He's going to triangle choke Brian Ortega off his back?
Nope.
Is that the move? Is that the go-to? He's going to lock up an arm? He's going to break Brian's arm? Maybe. I can see Brian dislocating his shoulder, blowing his knee out or something stupid like that. I could see it. And no doubt about it, I'll give all the pats on the back to Brian Ortega. He's getting beat up bad in that first round against Yair Rodriguez. But that even makes me like him even more because people got to realize that he was coming off a 20-month-long layoff going into that fight.
He tweaked his
Tons
knee.
of ring rust.
Tweaked his knee in that like right before the fight started, if memory serves correct.
He's jumping in the cage and he tweaks his knee. The fight starts. He's got a 20-month layoff, hurt his knee. All of a sudden, he's got a slow start, which is expected. Mm-hmm. He gets bombed with a pair of straight left hands, rocked, hurt to the body, shoots a takedown, gets taken down himself. Yair's pounding him from top position. He recovers, he gets back up, and he takes Yair down right at the end of the first round. That's how the first round ends. Yep. It was like, oh, good that he got that late takedown. But that moment was just like, game on, dude. Because, yeah, one guy's Mexican, but the other guy, he Mexican-American. So it woke him up, and it was like, yeah, it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty. And after that, he goes to his takedown games. His striking, when it's at his best, you've seen this guy piece up Korean Zombie, put a masterclass on Korean Zombie. You've seen this guy go out there and, yeah, he got killed by Max Holloway, but still, I mean, put up incredible numbers, stayed in the fight as long as he could. Volkanovski fight, had moments, almost caught him in a couple submissions. He's got 0 quit in him. He's got tons of durability. He's got cardio for days. I think his jiu-jitsu, again, it's got to be as good as Lopez's, if not enough to just stall him out from top position and defend yourself. Yeah, like, I got experience. I got a presumable striking edge. I got a grappling, at least neutralized, very least. I got a good wrestling advantage, I find here. Mm-hmm. Like, what am I? And he's an underdog, right? So, like, again, Lopes is everybody's baby. He's on this great winning streak. He's icing dudes, but, like, so was Sergey Pavlovich. But that only gets you so far. At some point, someone's going to come with a better technical game plan and derail you. So, sign me up for T-City Brian Ortega to get the win here.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with pretty much everything you said. They're like, the market seems to absolutely love Diego Lopes this week, and I get it.
Love him.
3 first-round finishes, but like, nobody finishes Ortega. He's taken a ton of damage over his career, and we know in MMA, eventually, you can only take so much. Is that potentially maybe this is the fight he gets clipped and actually falls, but if you haven't seen it yet, how can you really rely on that? I know he's had a lot of surgeries and like he's been through the ringer because fighting the top echelon of the featherweight division, you're gonna have to go through the ringer. Max Holloway's and Korean Zombie, who he obviously beats, and Alexander Volkanovski. It's like this guy's fought pretty much everybody except for the current champion, Ilya Topuria. Yeah, and he's shown the ability to get 127 significant strikes against Korean Zombie. Diego Lopes, outside of the pace of the strikes against Sadiq Youssef, where he hurts him and then gets on him like a rabid dog, lands a ton of significant strikes. There's like 26 significant strikes. Otherwise, is like historically pretty low volume guy. Takedown has not landed a takedown in the UFC. Takedown defense highly questionable. I'm not. Yeah, a lot of people will be like, "Aren't you scared of like the market move?" T City opened minus 150, and now he's plus 120 in some spots. And I'd be like, how I would answer that? You know who else the market liked last week, Cody? Ikram Alaskarov. How did that turn out? The market in this sport is not always right. It doesn't mean diddly squat. It means you get a better price on the bet that you're making. But at the end of the day, you got to pick winners. It is nice having CLV and all of that, but you can't feed your 2 kids CLV. I can't feed my dog CLV. Megan can't feed her family CLV. It comes down to the money. And I feel like the money bet here is Brian Ortega through and through. So many paths to victory. If it goes to decision, I feel like he can win a volume-based decision. He could get takedowns, hang out and guard, and I don't think Diego Lopes is going to have anything in the grappling department that Brian T. City Ortega hasn't experienced before. He could win by submission. There's so many paths to victory for him, and he's plus money. Sign me right up. All right, we got Roman Dolidze taking on Anthony Lionheart Smith. Roman Dolidze minus 140 favorite. Smith can be had for plus 120. I was actually considering betting Anthony Smith when he was taking on Carlos Ulberg, and he was like a plus 400 underdog. Only under the pretense that I like Ulberg. I think Ulberg has tons of talent. But nobody's really tested his grappling chops. Not that Smith is the greatest offensive wrestler by any stretch of the imagination, but it was an interesting at that price. It was kind of I didn't hit submit because I was hoping it was going to continue to grow, but I was considering it. I was considering parting ways with the money and probably see him get knocked out by Ulberg, who I think is a really good prospect, but it would have been an interesting fight. Roman Dolidze coming up from 185 to 205 for this match. I know Anthony Smith was a former 185 pounder, but that was a long time ago. He's definitely filled into this frame at 205 pounds. He's 2 inches taller than Roman Dolidze. Dolidze does seem like a guy that I've really, really graded pretty lowly. I don't know if I can pull the trigger on Anthony Smith here, Code, but I do see merit in him at plus money. I think Ortega is a much better bet than Anthony Smith, but Anthony Smith will be the pick for me. I think he's got just enough grappling to keep it on the feet, and probably just wins on volume. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, this one's super weird because the UFC says, man, Connor's out. We need to bolster this thing up. And so one of the other key pieces was Jamal Hill was going to fight Carlos Ulberg. And then Jamal Hill hurts his knee, and they're like, we need to save this thing. So they put in Smith against Ulberg. Ulberg's management realizes this is a bad idea. You have nothing to win over beating up Anthony Smith. Quite literally everything to lose, especially on short notice. So they yank him, and Dolidze moves up a weight class to now take on Smith. So the fight goes from being Jamal Hill versus Carlos Ulberg, and the very same fight is now Anthony Smith taking on Roman Dolidze. So, yeah, both guys are basically short notice. Roman Dolidze was supposed to fight about, 3 weeks ago against Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. I think Hernandez pulled out. So, it's not like he's not in shape. It's not like he rolled off the couch. But it's still short notice in all many senses of the definition of short notice. Yeah, man, I got trouble going back and forth in this fight. I also had Anthony Smith, like you said, and then the more I look into it, it's just going to be one of these dirty-ass wild fights. Like Roman Dolidze 2 fights ago takes on Marvin Vettori, and in that fight, it's his first real step up. He wins the first round. Yeah, he won the first round. He got outstruck, but he landed the better shots. The second round didn't do so good. The third round, he balls up, man. He loses, but he comes forward, he swings, he lands a ton. It's a good third round, and what he proves he can hang with the top guys of the division. So that's a key fight. The very next fight against Nasruddin Imavov, he looks completely out of place. The first round, he's not moving forward. He's flat-footed, standing and waiting. First left hand lands, he takes it well. Second left hand, he takes it well. And he's still waiting. He's waiting on him. Boom, third left hand rocks him bad. At that point, he has probably a 10-8 first round. Survives, but just barely. Second, third, fourth, and fifth round, he's an autopilot, and he's mostly just clinging on to him, trying to push him up against the cage. He's gassed. He's on autopilot. He's not landing anything, and it's not a very good fight. But he went 25 minutes. That's pretty much the only thing I can give him. He went from dog on a bone, walking you down, throwing haymakers in your face all the way into the third round, to gun shy, waiting on his opponent, relying on his wrestling that he never took down. I think he went 0 for 4 on takedowns against Imavov. So that's all massively concerning. Him moving up to 205. He's fought at 205 in the past. Before he came to the UFC, he was a bigger guy. I think he's fought once in the UFC at 205. He's fought as high as 215, I think, and he's grappled at that, at 215, 220. So part of me wants to give him the benefit of the doubt that without having to cut the weight, maybe he'll fill up and he will be able to push a pace and he'll be able to come forward and he'll fight like a traditional Georgian fighter, right? Dog on a bone, aggressive, highly active, stay in his face, do that. He can win the fight. If he's coming in and looks like a guy on short notice up a weight class and is going through the motions like he did against Nasruddin Imavov his last time out, could be a problem. But when you look at Anthony Smith, here's my concern with him. And I am going to go Imavov for the record. Here's my concern with Anthony Smith. Smith's good at catching these guys, especially if he's good plus money, catching these guys that are disrespecting him and not taking him seriously, but he has to beat them quick. He's a gotta beat you quick kind of guy. The last time out against Vitor Petrino, we called it on the show. Vitor looks suspicious. As we fade guys all the time. We're fading one already on this card in Diego Lopes. I would put Vitor Petrino in a similar boat. He crushes guys that are not at his level. When he takes that step up, didn't look like he was going to necessarily succeed. Smith beats him, but he beats him quick. 2 minutes into the first round with the guillotine choke. His fight with Ryan Spann, when you watch that one back, he smokes Spann in the first round. He hurts him. His striking's looking awesome. Leg kicks are on point. The jab's on point. That counter right hand's on point. Smith looks vintage. Second round, he gets cold cocked. His eye swells damn near shut. He gets taken down and ground and pounded. It's 1-1 going into the third, and he barely, and I mean barely, squeaks by Ryan Spann in the third round to get a split decision victory. Okay. The same Ryan Spann he had previously choked out inside of one single round like a year before. So when, and how did he beat Spann that first time? The first round finish. He needs to beat you early. The longer this thing drags out, he starts to accumulate damage. The difference between him and Nasruddin Imavov and Marvin Vettori is that those guys put up pace. Those guys are slick. Those guys are high level strikers. They don't just shell up. It's not a shell-up defense. Vittori's got a cement block of a head, so he can just eat the punches, right? Nasruddin Imavov is one of the quickest guys in the middleweight division, so he's just evading. If you look at that fight, Dolidze lands 29% of his strikes. He's just missing at thin air. Smith doesn't do that. He shells up. It's like a classic, I'm going to block these things, block these things, block these things. One goes up. It's like, you got to move your feet. You gotta create distance. You gotta move backwards, which he just doesn't seem to do. He seems to sit there and take the shots. But my point being is that Dolidze is durable. So if Anthony Smith goes out and styles on him in that first round, which is entirely possible, okay. But if Dolidze, not having to make the weight cut, can fight him the way he did Vettori, and that's come forward and make this thing happen, at some point, something's gonna sneak through and score for him. Then the last point that just tipped it ever so slightly, because again, at this point, I'm still leaning maybe Smith just because it's plus money. But I went with the greasy theory on it, is Dolidze looked good against Marvin Vettori, and he looked awful against Imavov. And I can't, did he have staph? Was he sick? What was the reason for the switch? But the fight with Vettori's on UFC 286, Edwards versus Usman 3. So it's a pay-per-view, right? It's a pay-per-view, and there's a wild crowd going nuts, and this guy feeds off of that because he's an aggressive, come-forward, emotional fighter. The very next fight against Imavov, it's his first time headlining a fight, sure, but it's the Apex, and there's nobody there, and it's silent as hell, and he fought flat. I think he needs the energy of the live crowd, and they'll give him that at this UFC 303 card. So, again, just is there any good reason to take Roman Dolidze here? Probably not, but in a fight that you can make a good case for both guys, I think you can make stronger cases for Roman Dolidze, and I'm going to pick him.
Not worried about the 20 pounds?
Well, again, he has fought at 205, and Smith has fought at 185. So on that point, it's but Smith is not an offensive wrestler. He doesn't take down anybody, because he took down Spann one time in that last fight that they had. But for the most part, his wrestling's not all that good, right? He relies on being that trickier striker. Thing is that you've got a guy here in Roman Dolidze, who has 15 pro fights, taking on a guy that's got like 57 pro fights. So yeah, I'm giving up 20 pounds, but I've got youth, not youth, they're only a year apart, I suppose, in age, but
They're like
like
the same
just
age.
yeah, they are the same age. I feel like he's just got more in the gas tank in terms of, mileage on his body. Smith is a proven gatekeeper. He can hold down the gate. He can come in and he can beat these phony prospects or these aged veterans that are over the hill. Dolidze doesn't really seem to be neither. Yeah, 2-fight losing streak, but against two of the best guys in the division. And again, I mean, there's moments certainly that you can say he did this well, he did that well. He's only getting better. He's full-time in Las Vegas. He's got some great training partners with him. I feel like he can win. The 20 pounds, the way I look at it is Smith probably walks around at 215. Dolidze probably walks around at 195, 200 pounds. Like, they're probably not that far off. And again, this is all theory, right? When you look at the tape, Smith's a much better striker. He just can't keep that polished, refined striking going for the next round over, Even the Roundtree fight, yeah, he took it on short notice, I guess. But just like the longer these fights go, man, he takes too much damage. Then you write him off. You think he's done. They book him against some mega prospect. The guy's a 5-1 favorite. No one gives Anthony Smith any respect, and he catches him with a quick finish. Again, there's not enough there. Smith's wins outside of Span, greasy split decision, is Vitor Petrino, first round, Jimmy Crute, first round, Devin Clark, first round. That's him. That's where he's at. So if he doesn't finish Dolidze in the first round, which come on, it would be pretty hard to take out Roman Dolidze in one single round. That's when this thing is going to digress into just a greasy who wants it more. And again, I got to hope Dolidze does. Probably a better way of attacking it could be that live wagering, right? If Dolidze loses the first round, but he's still looking good and Smith's starting to fatigue, maybe you can get a better price on him. But if Dolidze comes out here and has a good first round himself, that's probably off the table. So, do what you want with it. Close fight, competitive fight I like. Hard to have confidence on either side because it was booked very short notice. Both guys have ups, both guys have downs. But again, for me, I got to go with Roll.
That's fair. Check your DMs. I sent you a picture. I guess, I don't know, did he just have a baby recently? It's a pretty funny picture. I'll throw it up right now, but just so people understand what we're talking about. That's the Georgian way right there. Holding the baby upside down. Is he still with Cheyenne Buys? Is that Cheyenne Buys' baby? I guess her name's not Buys anymore because she left.
You know what? That's a great question. I try not to pay attention to their life outside the kid, like the Garry stuff. But... Nah, I don't really care. It doesn't affect the pick. I'm looking at it from a pick perspective.
No,
I'll tell you what, dude. This picture, this guy's looking jacked. You can see his abs through this button-up shirt, which is pretty tough to do. And that's like a 12-pound baby.
Oh,
man.
You
like
don't,
this guy's.
It's
He's 6'3" from Georgia, Paul.
You don't know that's a 12-pound baby. That could be anywhere from a 8-pound baby to a 15-pound. It could be more than 12 pounds. That baby.
That kid right there is
his
like
forearms are looking
7 months old, dude.
Good.
That kid's like 7 months old. I would go as far as to say that could be a 15-pound baby. Okay. And he's holding it up like he just caught it out of a lake and it's a prize fish. Dude's jacked. Look at the hand on him. Look at that left hand on him. It's the size of the chandelier, Holmes. If that thing goes crashing off Anthony Smith's dome, you're not going to be worried about the 20 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much intention to bet Anthony Smith, but I think, yeah, just the 185 to 205, it's like that theory that I've always had that's the hardest, moving up. The division isn't very good, but it's like you're giving up 20 pounds to these people. And Roman was supposed to fight at UFC 302, so it's not like he's been on the shelf putting on a whole bunch of weight. He's always been quite big for 185, in fairness. So
he's 2-0 in the UFC.
The size could be negligible. The size could be negligible.
His debut against Kaitis Abragamov was at light heavyweight. He weighed in at 206.
Abragamov on the Mount
dude, check
Rushmore
him out. Check him out.
Worst
check him out, dude.
No,
dude, check Kaitis out. Since Kaitis got cut, look at the streak he's on. In MMA, he's on a 7-fight win streak in MMA, and he's been doing Russian cage boxing and beating some good guys, by the way.
Is this like the stuff that pops up on my Twitter feed where they're like punching out midgets and stuff like that?
No, Kaitis Abragamov is a point in case situation of why steroids are a really good thing for performance athletes, right? Mm-hmm. And when he was in Russia, he's allowed to do them. He's actually pretty good. When he comes to North America, he can't do them. He is god awful. Anyways, Roman beat him at 205. He beat John Allen at 205. And even though he was 2-0 in the UFC at 205, he dropped down to middleweight. So again, you're not taking a guy that's never fought at 205 before.
Yeah.
And they've both fought at 185. They've both fought at 205. Anthony Smith is 6'4", so he's a big guy. Sure. Dolidze is what, 6'3"?
6'2".
Dolidze has got way more hair on his back. He's going to be a problem, dude.
He does have a lot more hair on his back.
Which is a problem. How many guys with hair on their back lose? Like, not many, dude. Not
Muin Gafarov had that, like, real nasty little small patch of it on his back. I'm sure anybody watching really closely last week saw it. As soon as I saw that, I'm just like, okay, Kang is cooked.
You know, because it's like Samson. It's where he gets his power, right? If you were to have someone slip in his room and shave it in his sleep, he'd have no power, and they'd screw him over. But yeah, it's got, like, mythical creature status.
It's true. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. We all carry around different stressors, big and small. When we let them bottle up, these stressors can affect us negatively in our everyday lives and stall the pursuit of our long-term goals. Therapy is a safe space to get things off your chest and figure out how to work through whatever's weighing you down. It's important to learn positive coping skills and how to set boundaries to start to affect your life in a positive way. There might even be some things that you're not even really thinking about that are keeping you from being your best self. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched up with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge if you're not liking it. Visit betterhelp.com/doggerpass today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/doggerpass. All right, moving on down, we got Mayra Bueno Silva taking on Macy Chaisson. This line keeps flipping, but on the board it says -105 for Mayra Bueno Silva. Ever so slight favorite, Macy Chaisson -115. I look at it now, and that's flopped again. So it's pretty much a straight pick 'em at this point. The way I look, the market seems to love Macy Chaisson. I get it. She's 5'11". She's super, super big. She's showing improvements. A lot of these fights, though, she's leaning on that wrestling, going to the mat to get control time and all of that. In terms of, like, the money line, I don't know. I can see why people would have, like, bet Chaisson down from +150 down to where it is right now. But, like, I found a couple of my books, they had +370 on Bueno Silva by sub. I mean, I feel like that is the play. Like, until she was fighting the upper echelon of the division, this girl just, it's not always pretty. It's not great. Like Lena Landsberg, she was frankly losing against Lena Landsberg, but she's one of those girls. It's like she gets the opportunity to sink in a submission. And for middle tier type of opponents, it's game over. +370 for what I think is by far her biggest win condition here. Seems like extreme value to me. So I that was my first bet of the week, was MBS by sub. What's your take here?
Yeah, I was on Chaisson on +160. Now that it's even money, I get it, because it's a CF top model fight, 50-50. Dogger pass. If you could get plus money on one side, you'd feel way better about it. You've got a bet here that gives you good plus money because you're chasing that sub prop. So that's the kind of side you want to be on. You ain't looking to bet anybody here at -160, -150. It's going to be a closely contested fight. But I did see myself leaning towards Macy Chaisson to overall get the victory. When I look at Mayra Bueno Silva, again, it's not someone that I'm trying to discredit their career, but she came out of left field, man. Her career really consists of that Marina Moroz fight. She got taken down twice by Marina Moroz, who fights at 115 pounds and is a boxer. She got taken down twice. Not a good look. Loses. Mara Romero Barella took her down. Montana De La Rosa took her down 3 times. She ends up losing a point, and it ends up being a draw. Mano Fiorot, who's a karate fighter, took her down twice and doubled it up on the significant strikes. Wu Yanan is 1-5 in the UFC, okay? Wu Yanan won a round on 2 of the judges' scorecards against her and went the distance. Stephanie Egger took her down. Lena Landsberg, as you were mentioning, was doing pretty good against her before she hits up this knee bar. And just like that, you're fighting Holly Holm because there's nobody else in the division. It's a soft run. Her takedown defense is mad suspect. She doesn't have any signature victories, but she's in there against Holly Holm. And I thought she was losing. She lost the first round. The second round, Holly pushes her up in the cage and she grabs a ninja choke and subs her, which is nasty. Pops, no contest, red flag, USADA. If it was straight up anabolic steroids, you'd be like, that's the reason why a non-contender suddenly peaks at 32 and is fighting for the title or near the title. But it wasn't anabolic steroids. It was like Ritalin medication. And I'm sure there's a great story there and what she was actually up to, but weird. Anyways, they give her the title fight anyways.
She doesn't look like a steroid user. Let's just
Nah, she really doesn't. And she's got no cardio. If I was her coach and I was like, yo, you down to cheat? She's like, yeah. I was like, EPO. And if we can keep this pace going, you'll probably be okay. But she's got cardio issues, man. Anyways, beats Holm, no contest. Again, there's no challengers in this division. So they just give her the fight with Pennington. They go to Toronto. They say, F you, Toronto crowd. You'll eat any crap we put on your plate, which we will. And they put this as the co-main event. And like, again, she got takedowns in the first 2 rounds. That was the only bright point. She won the first, got a takedown, grabbed the back, just couldn't do anything with it. Second round, she's already slowing, but she does get a late takedown. Third, fourth, and fifth round, like she just can't muster up anything. Yeah, it's a 5-round fight. She flat out gasses. Her physicality and her strength is only really prevalent early. And again, I can't shake out of my head that she's been taken down by Wu Yunnan and Stephanie Egger 3 times by Montana De La Rosa. Marina Moroz took her down twice. Gillian Robertson takes her down. Gillian Robertson's not bad. It's a problem. If someone's going to go in with a game plan of simply, I will beat you to the takedown and take you down before you have a chance to set up shop on me, she's going to give them a problem. Not only is Macy Chaisson 5'11" to her 5'6", has that 5-inch height advantage, she's also has a 6-inch reach advantage. I don't think it'll be a striking battle. Both girls like to fight in the clinch. But Chaisson in the clinch is active. She's throwing knees. She's trying to throw elbows. She's trying to slam you up against the cage. She's trying to drop levels for a takedown. Whereas Marina Bueno is a little bit just like more methodical, a little trying to tie you up, trying to eventually push you up against the cage and also get a double leg off of it. But yeah, I don't know. For the most part, she just seems a little bit labored. Someone that's constantly throwing and being active and fighting hard out of the clinch and can keep that going for a few rounds is going to give her a problem. So when you consider that we just talked about Maria Bueno Silva's takedown defense not being great, now you look at Macy Chaisson, who's shockingly a pretty good wrestler. So her takedowns, twice in her last fight against Penny Kianzad, 3 takedowns against Irene Aldana. Irene Aldana has sturdy takedown defense. In fact, only gets taken down by the upper echelon girls.
Folded from an up kick to the body.
From an up kick to the body, which is so soft. In a fight she's about to win, it's so soft. Okay, but Marina Bueno Silva is not a striker. She might armbar you from guard or something like that, or grab a knee bar, but like she's not going to kick you in the gut. She's not going to bomb you with a big right hand. Like she's Brazilian, and Brazilians have this reputation of being big power punchers and aggressive and hang in the pocket and like mean. She's not that, man. Her striking's iffy at best. She wants to offensively grapple, but again, her defensive grappling is not all that good, and her gas tank's not all that good. They're keeping a close eye on her because she's already failed 1 positive test, and if she's looking to balance a regular, schedule here and not overly push the envelope, then you're just going to get average versions of her. She's about to turn 33 years old. I don't expect better performances from her. If anything, you're going to start to see some regression if you haven't already. So, problem. But anyways, with Chaisson, takes down Aldana, okay? 6 takedowns over Norma Dumont. Now, Norma Dumont, that fight was at 145. And again, Dumont doesn't get taken down by a whole lot of people. She's huge and she's good. And she got 6 takedowns over. She's the only girl to take her down more than once in a UFC fight, and one of only 2 girls to ever take her down in all of 9 of Dumont's UFC fights. One of 2 girls, only girl to take her down more than once. So that's solid. She took down Raquel Pennington. Solid. Marion Renault. 3 takedowns on Shayna Young. She's quietly, again, scored takedowns in her last 5 fights. Against girls, I think, with better takedown defense than Bueno. So it's a no bueno from me on taking the Brazilian. I'll take Macy Chaisson to, again, probably a close competitive first round. She may get taken down herself. She may get pressed up against the cage, but it's all about using that strength and that physicality to wear on your opponent offensively. The second round, she starts to tire a little bit. You take over in the clinch. You wear on her. You get your own offensive takedown. At the very least, work her in the clinch. Use those short knees. Use those short strikes. Accumulate that volume and that pace. In that third round, if we're 1-1, I'm liking our chances. If we're 2-0, yeah, even better. If we're down 2-0, it could be a problem. I'm not sure you just finish Bueno Silva because you feel like it. So we got to keep the second round close and competitive and win it. That would likely be the key. But Maybe wait until weigh-ins because you've lost the value at this point. Maybe wait until weigh-ins. Chaisson's now back fighting at 135. You would agree her last fight against Pannie Kianzad, she looked pretty good. That's her return to 135 because she fought Big Norm at 145. She fought Raquel Pennington at 145, and she fought Irene Aldana at a catchweight of 140. Okay, then she takes a year and a half off. Comes back against Pannie Kianzad, makes 135, career best performance. That's her heading in the right direction.
Took her down twice.
She gets taken down and she hits a sweep within like 30 seconds. It's like a half guard sweep, which doesn't work in men's MMA, but women's MMA, just create the scramble, get back up, get your hooks in. 5'11", she's got a good ability to slink off to the back. And again, I mean, when she fought Raquel Pennington, she missed weight. She came in at 148 and a half. She's big. And in that year and a half that she wasn't competing, she was just exclusively doing jiu-jitsu. And I mean doing jiu-jitsu hard. She's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu brown belt, not black belt, but worked on it hard. And then the Canny fight, she was not interested in striking with Pannie Kianzad. She wanted to make that a grappling match, and she was very successful in doing that. Bueno is a black belt, but everybody from Brazil is. So I think Chaisson makes this a grappling match, uses that size, tires Bueno out, can win it. But it's a 50-50 fight. The line has moved it to a 50-50 fight. I purely agree on that, but I am picking Chaisson.
As a MBS by sub better, we welcome takedowns from both parties. We are happy if Macy Chaisson gets it to the ground. We are happy if MBS gets it to the ground. If the fight is on the ground, we are happy. And I mean, every single one of Chaisson's fights finds its way to the mat. That's just kind of why I'm like, I think Mayra Bueno Silva, like, over 3-1 by submissions. Like, that's probably most, like, I see a world where Macy outvolumes her, outmuscles her. She's obviously way bigger. I think it's pretty sub or bust for Mayra Bueno Silva, and they've got it at -105 for money line and like over 3-1. I got plus 370 for her to win by sub. That's hashtag value in my humble opinion. All right, moving on down. We've got the future Conor McGregor or the wannabe Conor McGregor, Ian Machado Garry, taking on Michael Venom Page. IMG is a -135 favorite. Page can be had for plus 115. Who you got?
And honestly, like, I'm not shitting on Page, but I've never been like the biggest guy, like biggest fan of his. He is Stephen Wonderboy light. What Stephen Wonderboy used that style, that karate, that trickiness, that evasiveness, and put it on and use it practically at the highest level of the UFC. Michael Venom Page used it practically. He did, he put it to great practical use at the highest level of Bellator. Like, one has to wonder if he would have always been with the UFC, that his record probably wouldn't look like this. The UFC didn't sign him as some hot prospect. They damn near let him go to PFL. And I don't think they're paying a ton of money. He's 37 years old. And imagine Wonderboy only got signed as a 37-year-old Wonderboy. That's all you got to see. You never got to see that magic. It's all gone. He wouldn't be this title challenger. He wouldn't be this great fighter. It would be like, here's a guy that's very tricky, very evasive, but similar to Wonderboy and similar to Raymond Daniels. Father Time is the first one to beat them, because once that speed and those reflexes start going, you're not necessarily the same. His takedown, although he's worked on his grappling, no doubt about it, he's worked on his grappling. His offensive wrestling is not really something he's looking to go to, nor is it all that good. His defensive wrestling has vastly improved, but he still gives up takedowns in pretty much every fight that the guy wants to take him down in. He was considered washed as of like a year and a half ago. And all of a sudden, he's everybody's baby. Like, I can't quite see it. So again, when he's smashing Dave Rickles and Cyborg Santos and Fernando Gonzalez, Derek Anderson on Bellator scene, yeah, he looks good. But even then, Douglas Lima type guy is able to beat him. How good would Douglas have been in the UFC? I think good. But I don't think a world champion. I don't think a top 5 guy. Those apart, right? I want to focus on, he loses to Logan Storley on a split decision, which was a terrible fight. God-awful fight. And then his fight with Mike Perry. He's now basically quit on his MMA career to take a bare knuckle boxing match with Mike Perry. Even though he has this flashy, evasive style, the ring's too small, Perry's too much of a dog, and he's 36 years old, not looking for a payday, but taking a fight with Mike Perry in bare knuckle boxing, pretty much the only people that do that are looking for the payday. That aside, loses the fight to Mike Perry on a majority decision. I didn't think looked good. Takes his fight with Goiti Yamauchi, and Yamauchi's a top talent. It's a quality victory, but he just kicks him in the leg one time and blows his knee out. So, like, yeah, badass, but it wasn't like he was looking good for a round or two. It wasn't like he was looking good for a complete performance. He booted the guy in the knee and knocked and hurt him, right? Is his fight with Paul Semtex Daly. Paul Daly takes him down 4 times. Like I have issues with his game. So he signs the fight with Kevin Holland. It's his UFC debut. As I mentioned, he's 37. He wasn't a hot signing to the UFC. They did not pay him some incredible amount of money to lure him by no stretch. And I did bet Kevin Holland. Holland has a problem with fighting to his opponent's levels and just trying to make it an exciting fight. And in the first round, Holland takes him down. But instead of holding position, he just tries to ground and pound him. MVP gets back up. He lands a few flashy strikes. It's a close round, but they edged it towards MVP. Second round, Holland just takes him down and neutralizes him. Solid second round. Third round, I don't know. He did actually partially take him down, just didn't hold it. MVP gets up. He goes back to range. He lands a few strikes. He edges it out. It wasn't some great performance to me. He edges out Kevin Holland, who fought a poor game plan, then take him down 3 times and had a lot of success with his offensive grappling. Holland is not an offensive grappler. If there's a hole to Holland's game, it's his grappling. Yeah, he's a black belt, but he's more of a showman than anything. So, and being that Holland is so tall and he's kind of flat-footed at 170, a guy like MVP is tailor-made to bounce around the outside and kick him. He stands upright. Give me somebody that's going to barrel down on this guy. Give me somebody that's going to take him down and not just go for the submission over position, but really staple him to the mat and land short elbows. Fight a smart game plan. And I think Garry will do all of those things. You know, by comparison, here's a kid that's just 27 years old or nearly 27 years old. He's still got a long ways to go, but he's a judo black belt. And his judo's pretty solid. You can watch instances where he fights on the Cage Warriors regional scene where he can use a wrestling heavy approach, a grapple heavy approach, and do just fine. The thing is, like Connor, I can take down and neutralize Max Holloway, but that's not going to put asses in seats. People want you to talk shit and then deliver on talking shit. So he's trying to strike and he's trying to be entertaining. He's trying to do these different things, but grappling is an element of his game that's still there. 2 fights back against Neil Magny, he takes him down twice. Magny obviously is a pretty decent grappler, so I do put some a little bit of weight into that. And then his last fight with Jeff Neal doesn't take him down, but I don't know, he outstruck him. He definitely had the volume on Neal, just the bigger shots are coming from Neal. To me, my takeaway from that fight is he can strike with the better guys of the division. He can wrestle with the better guys of the division. It's that ability to blend those two things together. And training with a nasty cast of Brazilians, including Charles Oliveira, he will blend his skills together and put them to good use. People don't like his personality outside of the cage. I don't care about that. I'm looking at who's going to go out there and win the fight. What I got is a guy that's 10 years younger with a significant grappling advantage. I think his cardio is better than Michael Venom Page's. And the one thing that Page shines in is this tricky striking, fair. But it's not like Garry's a bad striker. He's a pretty good striker as well. If he can just navigate those waters, go high on that heavy on the low leg kicks, heavy on those calf kicks, heavy on clinching this guy up against the cage, use that judo, trip him up to the ground, use those short elbows, then the minute or two that he's allowed to dance around and go back and forth is not going to be enough for him to be like, oh, damn, he smoked him in those 2 minutes. That'll still be competitive. It's mixing in those other elements is going to secure the decision for Garry. I would think decision for Garry. Michael Venom Page, again, super tricky, hard to put away. Garry wants to be a showman. He wants to be a finisher, but I know he doesn't want to. He understands it's a difficult task. He's been very vocal. He doesn't want to fight Michael Venom Page. Not because he thinks he's going to lose to him, but he understands that this is a very difficult style to fight. They offered Stephen Wonderboy Thompson the fight, and he was like, dude, that would be such a bad fight. Because neither of us are looking to engage. We're looking to dance. And they didn't say those words, but that's what he meant. Mm-hmm. They're both counterpunchers. They both stay to the outside. They're both flicking one shot at a time and hoping that you get anxious and run into a counterpunch. A la Ryan Bader versus Lyoto Machida back in the day. If you fight a proper game plan, don't lose your cool, use those leg kicks, neutralize his lateral movement, and shoot takedowns, you're going to beat him. Wonderboy's career has gone south for 2 reasons. He's getting older, and guys have figured it out. Garry has to do that. Fight what everybody else has established as a blueprint, which is cut the cage off, hurt this guy's leg, take him down, rinse and repeat. Again, he's 37. He's not going to be able to shore up the holes in his game to the level that need be to be a upper echelon welterweight in the division. Go out there and prove everybody wrong. So I'll take Ian Garry here, likely by decision.
You broke that down, very rationally. And didn't, let emotions get in the way. I can't stand Ian Machado Garry at all. Don't like his shtick. Don't like anything about it. So I may bet with my heart here and bet Michael Venom Page knockout.
There's a lot of people doing that.
Plus 500. Because It really only takes one big one from him. You made a whole bunch of good points. I thought he looked pretty good against Kevin Holland, but yeah, Holland's offensive wrestling has never been great. He was able to get him to the ground a couple times, wasn't able to hold him there, and just seemed absolutely lost and like kind of mesmerized and stuck in the web. Anytime he tried to like break into the pocket. But Kevin Holland does have amazing durability. Guy can take a punch. Garry has shown pretty good durability. Wasn't it like Song Kanon that rocked him?
Song
Kanon rocked him a little bit. Song Kanon took him down twice. I don't know. I feel like this is kind of like
going to take him down?
I feel like this is a win-win type of fight for the UFC, though, right? Is that regardless of who wins in this fight, they can take him and make him the main event of their next card in the UK or like Ireland or wherever they go over in Europe, to be perfectly honest. Like I'm sure they've probably got one for the fall booked in that part of the world, and the winner of this fight would slot in perfectly into that role. So I don't know if it's like, oh, we got to really build up Garry at this point.
I disagree with that.
You do?
I disagree with that.
Why?
I disagree with that. I'll tell you why. Because for the UFC, they're like, yo, we got this 27-year-old brash talking Irishman.
Everyone
We've used
hates
this
him.
model.
No. It doesn't
Nobody's
a fan.
It doesn't matter. How many people hate Conor McGregor? How many people hate Brock Lesnar?
People loved Conor McGregor on his rise once he got all the money.
And he turned heel.
And then he turned heel when he took on Khabib, basically.
And they still love him. They still love him, Paul. People love a good heel turn. Pro wrestling has used the model. Let me finish.
Okay.
They realize we got a 27-year-old. I think he's still only 26. He's nearly 27. Doesn't matter. Young, brash talking, talented Irish kid. Okay. We know the mold. We know how to get these guys over. Conor is shot to bits. Conor may never fight again. He will. But the cash cow is drained up. We have milked the titties off this thing. She dry, dog. She dry. We need that next guy. So what do? They put Ian Garry on the Conor McGregor card. This is supposed to be Conor at the top. It's going to be a huge selling pay-per-view. And what's the pay-per-view opener to the card? What they're hoping could be the next Conor McGregor. Not talent-wise, but just maybe markability-wise. Kid's undefeated, and he's good-looking, and he goes on a run, and he's got all the makings. Okay, so now who do you match him up against? And initially, they tried to do Colby Covington. Garry signed a contract to fight Colby Covington. Now, that's a hard fight, but Colby is past his prime. He's a huge name. And the only person that people possibly hate more than Ian Garry is Colby Covington. So it's great marketability for him. If he beats Colby Covington, a former interim champion, a former world title challenger, huge for his career, right? On a Conor McGregor pay-per-view, sky's the limit. Colby says no. They scratch their head and say, what can we do? And they give him a 37-year-old former Bellator champion. Okay. Conor was going to probably knock out a former Bellator champion that night too. Why not have the next Conor McGregor go out and knock out a former Bellator champion? And that's the biggest win for the UFC. If Conor would he have, I don't know, Conor can sleep anybody if he's on, but was he on? That remains to be seen till they rebook it. Thing being that a 37-year-old MVP, there's no markability there for you, right? He's had a long career in Bellator. Hardcores know who he is. Other people don't. His style is cool, but they've seen it before with Wonder Boy. He's over the hill. He's 37. Oh, he beat Kevin Holland. He landed 41 significant strikes over 15 minutes. Is that a dazzling performance? It's a solid victory. I will not discredit it. I'm a Kevin Holland guy. That's a UFC debut. He took it again as a 37-year-old. All these things that I'm discrediting him for going into this fight, he showed up last time and proved me wrong. But again, it was a low volume, sneaky little attack type fight. Can't get behind it. And the UFC realizes this. If this guy goes out and can you headline a pay-per-view with them? No. Can you make him the co-feature on a pay-per-view? No.
Can you headline have a fight night and you can be the main event of a fight night?
You're right. Go have a fight night in England. What a great way to keep a guy on the roster.
The O2 Arena. They're probably going there. And probably
but they go there and they try to bang you off with like an Arnold Allen or a Tom Aspinall or like somebody that's got some actual potential of challenging for a world title in this division. I think when you look at Michael Venom Page, it's like he almost has to. This is the great path for him as well. His management team is not wrong for taking this fight. He has to knock out Ian Garry and then fight like Kamaru Usman in his next fight and knock him out too. and then jump into a title fight. Like that's how fast you need to fast track this guy. Whereas they're trying to do that. Taking Garry's a smart fight, but I think Garry, even though he's young and he's green and he's, not the perfect well-rounded fighter at this stage of his career, I get it. There's way more room to improve, and he will make those improvements over time. But right now is a great time to fight him for Michael Venom Page. It is. But I'm just thinking that Gary's going to have the better game plan, the better skill set. And this is a great marketing opportunity for the UFC to put one over for a guy that could be a future star for them. People love undefeated records. It's what they love. They absolutely love undefeated records. And I seen the board the other day. I'm probably wrong on this, but Garry and Tatsuya Taira were like the only non-Russian guys with undefeated records. Like it's mostly Russians and then them two guys. So, and the fact that they even have these boards, there's only like 6 or 7 undefeated guys in the UFC. It's hard to keep an undefeated roster. Floyd Mayweather built the blueprint on how to sell billions of dollars worth of revenue and have a shitty style, right? Because he's undefeated. People gravitate towards that for some stupid reason. The UFC is aware of that because they're a great promoter. They know how to promote talent. And again, I think it's not throw him in there. Who cares who wins? We'll just headline a card with the next guy. I think it's very much, this is a calculated decision that Ian Garry will win this fight, and Ian Garry will. And again, last point, we got to move on because we've been spending so much time on this fight, breaking down this one. But last point is that he had a contract in his hand to fight Colby Covington, to which he signed and sent back. So he's getting ready. He's getting ready to fight Colby. He's aware of the date. He's aware of the pay-per-view. He's aware of all this. Michael Venom Page is not. Once that fight breaks down and they realize we need to start saving certain fights and putting on high-profile fights, they reach out to him late. And he says, give me a week. I got to check my weight. I got to check this. So very much so, he's not coming in on a 12-week training camp, the best version of himself, as much as they probably offered him cha-ching to take a relatively short notice fight against an undefeated star on the curtain jerker of a giant pay-per-view. And he said, yes, I ain't going to fault the man. What's up? But reasons to lead me to believe that Garry gets the win here.
All valid points. But while you were talking there, I bet Michael Page by knockout because not an IMG guy. Hope he gets knocked out, and hopefully.
And there's a lot of people like you. There's a lot of people like you, and that's why you're getting a bettable betting price on Ian Garry.
I mean,
because there's people that are just hate betting.
Bet Online is already is that prop is getting bet at Bet Online. It's already down to plus 300. I found a plus 440. If you have, I don't have it where I live, but there's a certain book that used to be a sponsor of this very podcast. They have plus 500 on that. That'll move to like the plus 300-ish range. So I got CLV, bro. That's all that really matters. Can't feed my dog. Can't, feed any kids or anything like that with it. But I got CLV. I already won, bro. Hopefully Ian Garry's head gets knocked off. All right. We took our time on the main card. Let's rifle through the prelims here. We got Joe Pyfer taking on Marc-Andre Barriault. Pyfer a minus 260 favorite. Barriault can be had for plus 220. Your thoughts?
You got two outcomes here. Pyfer's either going to come in career best form, learn a lot from that loss. Again, 27. He's going to learn so much from that setback to Jack Hermanson that you see a good version of him, and he puts a beating on Marc-Andre Barriault. Flip side to that, this is an excellent dog opportunity if you're a Marc-Andre Barriault backer because Pyfer's coming off that loss. You don't know where his confidence at. His cardio seems to be a problem. They call him body bags, and for good reason. When Pyfer fights guys, he puts them away very, very quickly. Ozzy Diaz in the Contender Series, early second-round knockout. Alan Amandovsky, first-round knockout. Gerald Meerschaert, first-round knockout. Abdul Razak Al Hassan, second-round knockout. All of these fights are the under 1.5 rounds. Then he runs into his last time out against Jack Hermanson. Now, you and I picked Jack Hermanson based on that veteran gritty style and that he's been 5 rounds before. And that's all stuff you don't know from Pyfer. Pyfer looks as good as he always does in the first round. Lands some heavy shots on Hermanson, has him rock. Second round, he's already slowing down, but I do edge him towards winning that second round as well. This is a 3-round fight. He beats Jack Hermanson. All he's got to do is hold on for that third. It's a 5-round fight. In 3, 4, and 5, he's tired. The volume, the pace, a couple takedowns. Hermanson just fights a veteran gritty style and wears him out. Barriault, if anything, if the guy's got anything, he's fairly durable. Take away the knockout to Chidi and Jaquani. He's been very durable outside of that. And he's rugged, dude. He comes forward. He's got good cardio. He sets a tremendous pace. He's very active. He crashes the pocket, rinse and repeat. Crash the pocket, rinse and repeat. Just keep doing it over and over again. And for a lot of guys, it's overwhelming. Chris Curtis is one of the division's best counterpunchers. He's a guy that can keep pace with a lot of guys. He found himself getting overwhelmed. The judges, two of the judges, thought that he was landing the cleaner shots, which he was, but he was getting overwhelmed by Marc-Andre Barriault. He's eating his best shots and continuing forward with his game plan. I think if he fights Pyfer with a similar approach of just constantly crashing the pocket, constantly being in his face, it's a tiring type of fight. And Pyfer has shown that a pace can definitely wear on him. Hermansson's kind of dinking around the first round. He's not like he's pushing this grind on him. It's not like he's really taxing him. It's that naturally Pyfer from throwing heavy punches tires out. All of Pyfer's fights, he throws heavy punches. That's kind of one of the things he does. And now I don't know if he's realized it ain't going to work at this level. If he has realized that, I think he's going to come out and make all the improvements and look good here. If he has not realized that, again, he's going to load up on punches. He'll smack Barriault around. He's faster than Barriault. He's more accurate than Barriault. He's a better striker than Barriault. The first round, he will kick Barriault's ass. It's the second and third. If he gasses, if he starts to fatigue, if he doesn't get the quick finish over Marc-Andre, Marc-Andre's got heart for days. Heart and pace, and that's pretty much it. His striking's really not that good. His wrestling's not good. His ground game's nothing to write home about, but the guy has got a motor on him and is willing to engage with you and fight. That in itself makes him dangerous when Pyfer's a minus 300 favorite. So Pyfer live after first round, you would never bet him after the first round. Barriault would be maybe live after first round if he takes those shots and survives and you see it starting to go in his direction. But more so for Pyfer, I'm thinking that after that last fight, you went 5 rounds. That's still admirable, right? You fought 25 minutes. That you go back to the drawing board and you just realize, okay, don't load up on the shots. Pace yourself a little bit more. Win these first 2 rounds. If you're up 2 rounds in the third against Barriault, just survive the third round. We're good. If again, it's another fight where if it's 1-1 going in the third round, we are going to have a lot of problems on our hands. So I am going to pick Pyfer. For his minus 300, you would think that he's a confident play this week and he's up on the list, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get there. He is the play. I do think he wins. I just think the number's way off. Barriault will give him a fight. I'm just really hoping that this kid will have learned and matured from the loss. I'm right home with this all the time. Losing is good for these young fighters because you're not perfect. You don't do everything right. And losing usually exposes you in certain elements. Where was he bad? Well, geez, Joe, you're loading up a little too much on the punches. And geez, Joe, your cardio is really not world class at this stage of your career. And you had him hurt and you went over for the finish. You went a little too hard in the paint there for a minute. There's always things that you can improve on. And I think he'd be one of those guys. He's made a little bit of money at this point. He's been vocal to Dana White. I want to get paid more. I want the bigger fights. And they've given him Marc-Andre Barriault. So he's another guy that the UFC very much is behind. They do want to take care of and are giving him a very winnable fight. Barriault got robbed in his own country his last time out. I would expect Pyfer to probably, if it goes to decision, win those first 2 rounds, get the decision. If he can catch Barriault clean, he can knock Barriault clean because, again, Pyfer is a power puncher. I will not take that away from him. It's that one little scenario that exists that he comes out just like he did against Jack Hermansson. Actually, if he comes out like he did against Hermansson and it's a 3-round fight, he probably still wins. But I think I know you know what I'm saying is that there's that little universe that exists or that scenario that exists that Barriault just immediately kills that distance. Don't let him set up shop. Don't let him strike at range. Kill the pocket. Crash forward. Make this an ugly fight. Fight inside the clinch. Short little elbows. Short little knees. Shoot a couple takedowns for no other reason than cause him to react and cause him to exert energy. Second round is one of these greasy second rounds that Pyfer won the first. Second was a lot closer. I hope the judges got it right. The third round, Barriault's on this guy who's dead dog tired, and Barriault's still coming forward. And it's a split decision, and you're singing, oh my God, and you lose. And you got a minus 300 guy that just lost a split. This is that kind of fight. In fact, if you're a split decision hunter, Andre Arlovski's fight and this fight, these are the type of fights that are probably going to be split decisions. And when you're looking at a prospect of this could be close and competitive, and I got minus 300 on one guy, that's the problem. But, we talk about it all the time. If you like a dog, you pull the trigger on him. I like Ortega, I'll pull the trigger on him. I don't mind Barriault. If you were a value boy, if you're looking for a dog, if you're looking to take a long shot, punt type play, a guy that's going to fight for your dollar and has a path to victory here, you can do a lot worse than Marc-Andre Barriault, man.
Yeah, I don't mind Barriault, but my biggest concern here is, the plus 220 right now seems okay. But I expect him to lose round 1. I think Pyfer will absolutely throttle him, dominate. And if he gets the finish, it's probably in those first 5 minutes, when he's at his freshest, when they're dry, and if he's able to get the fight to the mat, and he's got some decent submission grappling. Seems to be a general trend with that entire gym, and I don't like, at least for the guys in the higher weight classes, because Sean Brady 100% has the cardio to go, the full 3 rounds. But Pyfer, credit where credit due, Pyfer went the full 5, but rounds 4 and 5 he was obviously hurting for certain. Round 3 he was obviously showing signs, and that was a big hit, that card for all parties. We pretty much nailed that card, but stop patting myself on the back. But yeah, Nursultan Ruziboev, he seems to have, cardio issues the longer the fight goes on. Who else is he training with? There's a picture of him right here. Andre Petrosky, another guy that's like really, he's a big problem in round 1, but like the cardio kind of kicks in. I know he's got a bunch of 3rd-round finishes, but it's like the cardio has kicked in multiple fights for him. So it's like, I don't know, something at the gym that they train at, Marquez MMA in like Philadelphia.
Jeremiah Wells.
Is he trained there too?
Wow, they're all Renzo Gracie Philly guys. Like, they all kind of cross-train in that little mix. Like,
so it's interesting. I don't know. It probably means nothing, but it's like, it seems like it's kind of a general trend with like guys above 170 pounds in those divisions. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. But I feel like Marc-Andre Barriault, it's just like, I don't know if I would love betting him at +1 or +220 when he's going to be like +400 after round 1. You know what I mean? It's like, I expect him to lose round 1. He may get his head knocked off, get finished in round 1. He could get taken down, submitted in round 1. The best work that Pyfer has done in his UFC career tends to be in the first, 7.5 minutes of the fight. Gets a hell of a lot more interesting if you start seeing Pyfer slow down, because Marc-Andre Barriault's got a hard 15 minutes in him, and will put it on you real hard in the 3rd round.
What's the Barriault on the decision prop?
Barriault by decision is Barriault decision +700 is the best I see.
Yeah, you're probably better bet just betting him live if you get smoked. And
exactly, because you could get maybe he puts on such a pace that somehow he gets a 3rd-round finish or something. You'd kick yourself if.
You know what, too? Like the Abu Azaitar fights. Abu's a bum, but he's a 1 round. If anything, he might cut you in the 1st round, and then Barriault just walks through it and lands 141 on him. Dolce Lengambula, 1-round guy. Barriault navigates the waters of the 1st round, puts up 118 on him. He put up 109 against Julian Marquez, 95 against Eric Anders, and 122 against Chris Curtis. So 4 times he's eclipsed over 100 significant strikes, and against Anders, he put up 95. Joe Pyfer's career high is 94 in his last fight, which is a 5-round fight. Barriault's never fought 5 rounds. They're all 3-round fights. Mm-hmm. So like, pace all day is going to be towards Barriault, man. Honestly, I'm talking myself out of either like PRP pick Barriault. I still probably pick Pyfer, to be honest with you, but either PRP pick Barriault, or at the very least, I can only actually breathe out of one nostril right now, Paul, but I can still smell the shit in the apple pie. That could be Joe Pyfer. He might be the guy this weekend because of the value or the number associated with him. He could be the guy that wrecks your parlays if you're playing parlays.
Yeah, best price on Marc-Andre Barriault by decision that I see right now, just quickly looking through, is +740. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but yeah,
take him by split.
Yeah, it's too early. It's too early for those props right now, but I could totally. Yeah, if he doesn't die early, I think this gets real greasy down the stretch. We got Andre Touchy-Fili taking on Cub Swanson. Fili, a -250 favorite. Swanson could be half for +210. Who you got?
Yeah, again, I mean, talk about one that probably gets greasier the longer it goes down the stretch is exactly that. Both guys are super tenured with the organization, but I wouldn't say that they've had like the most success. Cub's a guy that's hung out in the top 5 for the vast majority of his career, but never fought for a world title inside of the UFC, and overall is 14-9 in the UFC. Andre Fili's been with the organization for over a decade. He has an 11-10 record and a no contest in the UFC. So they're both kind of about 50-50. Cub Swanson at his best. He's a dog, man. He throws. Is durability a question? Like, I'm not so sure. He got really beat up in the Jonathan Martinez fight. You're starting to see that he's clearly not the same Cub Swanson that he was in years past. He's slowing down. He's regressing. A lot of his game is predicated on like timing and reflexes and just his ability to kind of move out of the way and counter with that big punch. He can still throw down with the best of them, but he's most definitely regressing, slowing down, taking a lot more damage. The writing, so to speak, is on the wall for him. At his best, he can still take the punches and roll with them and give you a tough fight. At his worst, he's got durability issues. When you look at Andre Fili, he's much of the same, man. At his best, he can throw up some serious volume. Guy is a longtime member of Team Alpha Male, can wrestle offensively a little bit, can wrestle defensively a little bit, but where he shines is he's very quirky with his stand-up game. Likes to mix in that jab, likes to mix in some power punches. At his best, he's very durable and can give you a considerable, strong 15-minute performance. At his worst, you're just seeing him come off a knockout loss to Dan Ige, you know? So, 3 fights back before that, 2 fights back before that against Yanis and Brito, knocked out 40 seconds into the first round. So the last thing to go is your power. And the problem is the first thing to go is your speed and your reflexes in your chin. The last thing to go is your power. Fili, and this guy's a cool guy. We got to hang out with him a little bit in Vegas, like as real as it gets. But over a 10-year tenured career, 22 fights in the UFC, he's got a 500 record, so to speak. And with the durability, if it's not there anymore, it's going to give you serious cause for concern. Dude, he's a minus 250 favorite. So, like, well, what could go wrong? Lots of things could go wrong. Cubs' issue, meanwhile, is again, his reflexes are a lot slower and his speed's a lot slower. His abilities are diminishing. But again, he can still stand in the pocket with you and throw. He can still catch you with that right hand. He can still make something happen. And so the knockout prop is still on the table for Cub Swanson. He could catch Andre Fili. Not only could he do that, there's a world that exists that he could take down Fili and have some success with his grappling. They're both black belts, but again, Swanson's not a total fish out of water. And then there's also a world that exists that this thing is just remotely close and competitive. And it, just like the Hakeem Dawodu fight, Cub Swanson got outstruck in all 3 rounds of that fight. But you give it to him because he's the old man Cub Swanson. He is a fan favorite. He gives you everything he's got. He's getting outlanded. He's getting outstruck, but he bites down on his mouthpiece and he throws bombs. And he's got 3 cute little kids. They're sitting ringside yelling, "Papa, Papa." As a judge, as a human being, not some AI robot, Paul, how you gonna score against that? You don't. And he robs Hakeem Dawodu. And now Fili, minus 250, could potentially be chinny. Fighting a tough guy in Cub Swanson. I mean, if it's striker versus striker, they're both accredited strikers. 50-50 record over his 20-fight UFC career. Coming off a bad loss. If this thing goes to decision, I'm taking on Cub Swanson, who's known to grease out a guy or two because he's the man. And we're about to talk about Andre Arlovski later. The same shit. Don't be in a close fight with him. You better knock him out or submit him or absolutely pulverize him pillar to post because they're very tenured fan favorites on the roster. And if it's close, you ain't going to win it, man. You're not going to win it. So, again, it comes down to the money line. I think Fili, because he's younger, a little faster, knockout loss, fair, but Dan Ige, I'm a fan of Dan Ige's work, and he's got fast hands. I'll give him that. He caught him. Jourdain and Brito, wow, he's a brute. He caught him. If I'm writing excuses for Fili, I think I still side with him here, but the line is, again, you smell that? Mm-hmm. You smell that, Paul? If you're looking for these guys that are over minus 200, minus 240, minus 250, minus 300, and there's probable cause that they could lose the fight, I don't know that you can really have a ton of confidence or investment in them. So I don't know. I want to take the over, but both of them, again, maybe have durability issues, and then you want to take the under, but they're both class act veterans. So they're both fan favorites, really. But Cub Swanson is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and Andre Fili is just a good guy. Yeah. So, Father Time beats us all. And it just seems like they're getting there. Once upon a time, Andre Fili was a hot prospect, and it was like him and Paige Van Zandt might hook up. And now it's like Andre Fili conceivably could lose his fight to Cub Swanson and be on his way out. And Paige Van Zandt's doing power slap on Friday night. So, I mean, there could be worse.
Times is tough on everybody.
Would you be shocked? Would you be shocked if Andre Fili, loses this fight, and then goes to the PFL and wins $1 million?
because I
Not
wouldn't.
not shocked at all. In fact, that's
Like
probably
he
that's
goes in
probably the
there,
best
fights
avenue
Clay
for him.
Collard in the lightweight finals because he's not gonna fight. He's not gonna cut down to 145 if he goes over to PFL. Beats Clay Collard. I mean, Clay Collard obviously just lost, but he still got on to the playoffs last time out, or last week. Either way, yeah. I mean, that may not be the worst thing in the world. I I think if this fight is a 15-minute, stand and bang, throwing strikes, it's like it seems pretty clearly a dogger pass. It's a little bit scary. I think both of these guys could knock out the other guy. Cub has a history of eclipsing 100 significant strikes when, like, if a fight turns into an absolute war and neither guy's able to knock the other guy out, Fili not so much. Like, it's usually around like 60, 65, 70. I don't know. I would really struggle to get to Andre Fili at minus 250. I don't know if I'm going to bet the fight, but I think it's a pretty clear dogger pass. Cub Swanson for me. Because, yeah, the volume and just going toe-to-toe with Hakeem Dawodu and going full 15 minutes, putting up 77 significant strikes, it's like, it's not a horrible performance by any stretch of the imagination. He still lost, but it was, like, relatively competitive. So, I don't know. Cub's older than me, which is, like, that usually means that you're pretty washed, but he's still hanging around.
And he's been harder on his body too. And
Yeah.
if you can imagine that.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
Paul's been
about
hard
that.
on his body, but Cub Swanson's got like 50 fights at the highest level of the sport over a 20-year period. I gotta think my boy Paul's got a little more I don't know, man. You guys probably both have your number of health issues.
Yeah, I've got like country miles on me now that I've moved out to Nova Scotia. But let me tell you, in the city, there was some city miles getting put on that car, and yeah, we're recovering now. Cub hasn't had the time to recover, but he's got kids. He's just like focusing on training and stuff. So, he's in much better shape than me. Don't get me wrong. All right, let's move on. We've got Charles Jourdain taking on Gian Silva. It's a straight pick 'em, homie. Who you got?
Yeah, I'll be the first one to admit I can't pick Charles Jourdain fights. I cannot figure the guy out. Used to fight in TKO in Quebec. I had the mark on him then. He can't wrestle. And yeah, they call him Air Jourdain. He'll throw a flying knee. He'll throw a flashy kick. His technical boxing is not good. His kicking game is good, but it's not like he's setting it up as much as he kicks like a mule. You've seen some of these guys, they just don't feel any pain in their leg and they'll just spam kicks, and it's an effective game plan. He can spam kicks all night. But again, his like technical boxing is not sharp. He doesn't got an educated jab. He mostly when he lands with power, it's because he's swinging some big old shot. He prefers these tricky type, flash type strikes. And he's a fun guy to watch, no doubt about it. But he's an incomplete fighter. Comes to the UFC, loses to Des Green, taken down 5 times. You knew that was the book on him. And then after that, he reinvented himself. He is capable of going out and getting wins. Just looking at his last few, I picked him his last time out against Sean Woodson. And it's in Canada, and he lays an absolute abysmal egg. His striking is non-existent. His kicking game against this long tree of a man is not coming anywhere close. He gets out jabbed, he gets out worked, he gets out hustled, he gets out grinded up against the cage. He has virtually no success. It was like very, very, very frustrating fight to watch. They gave him a split, and it's a terrible split decision. In what world did he win that fight? No world. But it was in Canada, and they tried to give him one over. Didn't work. Bad performance. I picked him. Time before that against Ricardo Ramos, he looks spectacular. He guillotine chokes the guy in 3 minutes. I picked Kron Gracie over Charles Jourdain. My God, stuffs all the takedowns, puts a clinical beating on him, takes him out. The solid win. Nathaniel Wood fight. He gave him a go, gave up the 5 takedowns. His fight with Shane Burgos. He outlanded Burgos 113-42. I had Shane Burgos. I was sweating it. And they don't give it to him. At his best, tons of volume. Got sneaky technique, got power by way of it's not the big shot that lands, it's the one you don't see coming. And he's windmailing shots out there. You're not going to see one of them. It's going to hit you. But again, he's very much still an incomplete fighter. And then the last time out against Woodson, again, it was very disappointing because now you're a tenured veteran. Now you're coming in on a 2-fight winning streak. You're getting some momentum. You're getting some rhythm. There is no game plan. There was no, this is what I'm going to do to defeat Sean Woodson. It's, I'm going to go around and flail around and throw shit. And if it doesn't work, oh well, no plan B. No ability to transition to a plan B. It was very disheartening, and I like the guy, and he's young and he's talented, but he's never left Quebec for his training camps. His wrestling has never got any better. His takedown defense is still mad suspect. His striking game is predicated on volume, but somewhere along the line, he's been punched in the face, and now he's second guessing himself. He's not crashing the pocket wild anymore. He's getting outstruck in a bunch of these spots. And that fight with Woodson, you're at home with your home crowd, with a training camp only 4 hours down the road, and all your friends and family, and he does not want to engage a guy who's not known for any power punching. He's a volume guy as well. And he's deathly afraid of getting countered by him. When I look at Jean Silva, he lacks all of the experience that Charles Jourdain has. Yes, fair, but he's only 27 years old. He's going to be getting better. He fights out of Fighting Nerds in Brazil. So one guy has no game plan, and this guy is going to have a good game plan. The gym's known for putting together crafty plans, sticking to them, high ring IQ. Cal Barallo has made an extremely successful career out of taking the path of least resistance. And then this kid's capable of doing that. You see him on the regional scene, he's just icing guys out in the first round. Like, he hits you, it's a problem. But can he continue that into his second round? But you see that in the Contender Series against this Kevin Villagos. He lands 86 significant strikes, paces himself well, throws heat the entire time, but again, doesn't necessarily gas out. He's young, he's improving, he does get a takedown there, and he subsequently beats Weston Wilson in his debut. How much credit can you give him for that? But he took him down and he knocked him down. So here's a kid that on paper, he looks faster than Charles Jourdain. He seems to have a speed advantage. Whereas Jourdain's looking to stay to the outside and throw some rinky-dink bullshit, this guy's looking to get in there and land hooks and land meaningful shots and work the body and work the legs. And that's the body of work that if I'm judging or I'm a fight fan or if I'm a bettor, that's the body of work that I much rather prefer. Jourdain taking down Jean Silva, I don't really see it. Jean Silva taking down Charles Jourdain, it's on the table. This thing ends up being played out in the clinch. I think Jean's more physical. He's stronger. The only thing he's giving up is the experience, really. Jourdain's been here. He's done that. He's fought some good guys. He's gone the distance with some good guys. Silva really hasn't. But if I'm looking at speed, strength, youth, I don't know. They're both young, I suppose. Just the overall game planning, the overall skill set, I feel like he's got the capability to go out there and spring one out. Plus 110 near even. There's not a whole lot. I was hoping to get him as a slight underdog simply because Jourdain is well known and is a little more tenured. But I think people are watching the tape and realizing one guy's fighting for the $50,000 bonus and have a fun time. The other guy's fighting to get his win check as well as his show money. So, like, that's what I'm trying to get to, dog. Let's win the fight. I don't care about some flail your arms and legs type performance. Go and buckle down and get her done. So that's what I got to go with. He was supposed to take on William Gomez. William Gomez pulls out. They move the fight back a month. Jourdain, meanwhile, doesn't have a fight booked. So Jourdain, so to speak, is the one that's taking it on short notice. Silva has the full camp. And again, I think you're going to see Jourdain just chase the bonus money and Silva put it together the complete game plan and get the win. So I'm going to go with Jean Silva to get the victory.
And Jourdain was up in Toronto, 2 weeks ago, doing that United card on the broadcast. So I don't know. Was he ready? I know he trains in Quebec. Was he just happened to be in Toronto? I have no idea. But this one opened up at like minus 200 for Jourdain, and now it's a straight pick 'em. I think it's gonna be a close nip and tuck, competitive fight that ever so slightly lean towards the guy who I think will land the more impactful strikes, and I think it's Jean Silva. But the world we're living in these days, Cody, this kind of fight, if it does go the full 15 minutes,
could be a split. Yeah.
It screams split. I mean, Jourdain's last fight against Woodson, that was the only reason that fight turned into a split was because we were in Canada, and pretty clearly the one judge that gave it to Jourdain was scoring for Canada regardless.
He was sipping on the maple syrup.
100%. But yeah, I'll lean towards Jean Silva, but I feel like you kind of missed if you're waiting until Wednesday to bet this, or at least bet that side. I feel like you kind of missed the boat. Biggest favorite on the card, Payton Talbott takes on Yanis Ghemmouri. Payton Talbott, a minus 1,700 favorite. Ghemmouri can be had for plus 900. What can you really say? But a minus
This is how
1700.
we make up time on the show here.
The kid looked like, I mean, last time out, this guy looks like he's in the damn Matrix out there. Like he is. Here's all I'll really say it quickly. I've been impressed with him. I feel like the fights have been progressively getting a little bit more difficult. He made beating Cameron Simon look so incredibly easy. Minus 1700 is insanity. It's, banana peel pricing at this point. But I think this is Yanis Ghemmouri is not the guy I'm willing to step in front of the Payton Talbott train, because this guy seems to be improving and seems to just have a certain sense in the octagon that you don't see very often. It's tough to describe, but this guy seems to be the goods. And if he keeps improving, could be a big problem for bantamweight. But one fight at a time, one step at a time. But I mean, when you break things down like mathematically, does Ghemmouri have like maybe a 10% chance? I don't even know if he would have a 10% chance. So it'll be Payton Talbott for me, but from like a betting perspective, they've set it up that's like there's really nothing I can do with this. But yeah, Talbott is the pick. Shocker.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a 5% chance it's an MMA fight. Anything can happen. And then realistically, like the way I think you could beat Payton Talbott would be try to use that wrestling. Like you've seen in the Christian Rivas fight, he does get taken down multiple times against a dude that was on the Ecuadorian national team, but all the same, he does get taken down. And then the Nick Aguirre fight, his UFC debut, he does get taken down. He's so young that the time to beat him by taking him down is now. Do it now. Because his skills are filling out and he's getting better every single time out. But that's the path to victory. Take him down. If you want to stand with him, you got problems on your hands, dude. Like his ability to use his feet to set up everything. He's got excellent footwork. He's got excellent speed, and he's very precise. And I'm not saying he's the next Conor McGregor, but going back to McGregor's, precision over power, that's what this kid does. He mixes it up extremely well, and because he's coming at different angles and constantly attacking from different spots, it's like eventually you slip up, you leave that opening, and he capitalizes. He seems to be a potent finisher. Again, he's young, getting better, and he's going to be a problem. Simon, I had a lot of respect for Simon. Have a lot of respect for Simon. Kid's durable. Kid's tough. He comes from the Dreykus Duplessis cloth. They're cut from the same cloth. Couple durable guys that are going to go out there and put on a performance. He had the experience. He had a little bit of hype. Payton Talbott absolutely sliced through him. When you look at Ghemmouri has some okay striking. Not great striking, but yeah, no, he's knocked out a few guys. His striking is his bread and butter. His debut in the UFC, he did not look good against William Gomez, but that fight was at 145. Now he's coming down to 135. He's only 29 years old. If this is just going to be striker versus striker, he'll have a chance to land his shot. But nah, man. Payton Talbott's just way faster than him, way more cleaner than him, and probably going to deliver the goods. So minus 1700, even if we throw it on parlays, it ain't doing anything. But Payton Talbott by knockout is like minus 250. And that's really not that bad, considering there's some worse minus 300s on this card, straight up money line. But do I want to chase a prop for minus 250?
Not really.
That's just chasing bad news. No, that's chasing bad news.
It's like a squash match in heavyweight. You consider something like that. But.
Well, you know what? I would rather it in a bantamweight fight, because a heavyweight fight after the first round, they're both like,
yeah. I mean, like we're talking like Francis Ngannou versus whoever.
Anthony Hamilton?
Yeah, against Bummelton. I think we probably even got a better price than that back in the day. But you get my point. That it's like, okay, one guy has no chin, one guy has the most power I've ever seen out of a heavyweight. Wonder what's going to happen here.
I would prefer this one because, again, with heavyweights, it's like at some point it just becomes a slow-paced fight, right? Oh, they're grappling. Oh, they're up against the cage. Oh, but they're both tired, right? Talbott, this is his amateur career. Second round rear naked, third round knockout, second round knockout, third round rear naked, second round knockout. Those are consecutive. I didn't miss anything. His pro career, second round knockout, third round knockout, second round knockout, second round knockout, third round knockout, decision on the Contender Series, third round rear naked choke, second round guillotine. He's never finished anybody in the first round. It's that he does not stop beating you down, that eventually you just succumb to it. That's what's going to come here with Yanis Ghemmouri. He'll do his damnedest to try to intercept him with a right hand. He'll do his damnedest to show some bravado and, step up to the young kid. But eventually speed and just like precise, clean shots are going to hit him and hurt him. If Payton wants to show a different wrinkle to his game, great opportunity to use your wrestling, take him down, and maybe try to submit him. That would crush our prop. But again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think he knows how good he is. He's most comfortable standing, and you have an opponent that, unlike a lot of the other guys you're fighting, doesn't even want to take you down, presumably. He wants to strike. He's a striker. You're going to chase that $50,000 bonus as that young kid who's 7-0 or 8-0 as a pro, 5-0 as an amateur, undefeated, smoking everybody. He does have submissions in his record. It is something he could do, but I think he just like shows up and shows out, puts on a highlight reel performance, and just takes Ghemmouri out with a knockout. So yeah, minus 250 if I was trying to improve it. I would try to take that knockout prop. But again, that's like chasing a under 1.5. Like, it's not me. I don't love it. I don't love it. But that would be the way to not have to pay minus 1,700.
Yeah. And to quickly correct ourselves, because we brought up Anthony Hamilton versus Francis Ngannou and been like, yeah, he's obviously going to knock him out when those two guys fought. That's when he got the Kimura.
Yeah.
But I remember we were in the Fight Network office.
He just big brothered his
like,
ass.
oh, who's this Ngannou? One of our fellow employees were saying, "Oh, who's this Francis Ngannou guy? Why is he a favorite against Hamilton?" It was just like, "Oh, you're gonna find out on Saturday, my friend." And it wasn't even close, but that's neither here nor there. All right, we got Gillian Robertson taking on the karate hottie, Michelle Waterson, minus 190 for Gillian, plus 165 for Michelle Waterson. You know me, I haven't really been a Gillian Robertson stan by any stretch of the imagination on this on this podcast over the years, but I feel like she's starting to make some corrections in her not her durability, but like her gas tank, her management of her energy. I think she's got a massive grappling advantage in this fight if she's able to get it to the ground. And frankly, like, Waterson hasn't really put up volume in quite some time now. We are on, she's lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of her last 7 fights, getting finished in a couple of them against, opponents that are tough. Maybe tougher than Gillian Robertson, but it's like the writing's on the wall. You know me, I love the CF Dot model, but give me the younger up and comer, I suppose, in Gillian Robertson, who I see making improvements, whereas with Waterson, I think the best of her days are pretty well behind her at this point.
Yeah, well, obviously, I mean, she's 38 years old. She's tenured, but yeah, not only is she 1-6 in her last 7 fights in the UFC, she's 6-8 overall with the organization. So she not had some spectacular run. And when she was at her best, she was near title contention. But since then, it's definitely fallen off the hill. Because she makes a decent amount of money, they're not going to give her layups. They're not going to give her contender series veterans. She has to fight credible opposition every time out, and she's just not quite there anymore. These lighter weight classes, you and I both know, they're predicated on speed and youth. And at 38, to be fighting at 125 pounds, it's a problem. Sorry, 115 pounds. It's a problem. Robertson, yeah, she's got 16 fights in the UFC, but she's still only 29. And as you mentioned, cardio used to be an issue. Ring IQ used to be an issue. Spent a lot of time working with Dean Thomas. Spent a lot of time working down at ATT over in Florida. Kind of just putting these better game plans together. And I think you're starting to see her work it as of late. Her last 5 fights, again, she's taking down all of her opponents. Her last time out, she got 2 takedowns over Polyana Viana, BJJ black belt, and smashed her once she got on top. Her fight with Tabitha Ricci, she lost, but she did manage to take her down and did put up some decent volume in that fight. 2 takedowns against Pierre Rodriguez, 3 takedowns against Agapova, took down JJ Aldrich, took down Priscilla Cachoeira, and just like that, you've got takedowns again in your last 5 fights. With Waterson at her best, she was very fast, fleet-footed, karate-style fighter. She could evade those takedowns, and that version of Waterson would probably give Robertson a lot of problems. Stay to the outside, move around, counterpunch when need be, cause her to chase you, and then just don't get taken down. But I don't really have trust in it anymore. She got taken down her last time out against Marina Rodriguez, bit of a red flag. And outside of that, it's like, I don't know. I don't know that these girls go in with the game plan of taking her down. They're mostly just trying to strike with her. She had a good first round against Lemos, and then the wheels fell off, and she got subbed in the second. Her fight with Leona Pinheiro, she outlanded her. It was a valiant effort, but she doesn't have any pop on her strikes. She doesn't have any real definitive power. She doesn't hit you with a shot and cause you to do the stanky leg or take a step back or reel away. It's not point fighting. She's trying to knock you out, but she's a former 105 pounder. Now she's a mother, a 38-year-old, a former cast member of MTV's The Challenge. Like, this ain't it for her. 6-8 in the UFC. You know where she truthfully should be is released from the UFC. 1-6 in her last 7. You can't call me unfair for saying that. And then go fight for Karate Combat and be a star over there. You're the karate hottie. And it's a format where the rounds are 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and you can take them down, but you can only hold them down for 10 seconds. And that's the format for her. Not fighting these grueling 15-minute fights with girls like Gillian Robertson, who are 8 years younger than you, BJJ black belt, and wants to take you down. And once she does take you down, is going to rough you up. It's women's MMA. 100% the underdog can win, and generally does. But this is a style clash and one that seriously favors Gillian Robertson. So, yeah, again, I do think she's making improvements. And Waterson, you cannot say her game's getting better at all. Robertson at some points grounds her for 2 of the 3 rounds and either wins a decision or maybe latches onto the neck and subs her.
Hundo P. All right, let's move on to the heavyweight division. We've got Party Marty Buday taking on Andre Pitbull Arlovski. Minus 240 for Party Marty. Plus 200 for the Pitbull Andre Arlovski, who loves himself a split decision. And the judges historically tend to have, the only reason he's probably still around at this point is that he's won some decisions that he probably shouldn't have won. But I don't know, man. Are you feeling comfortable about laying minus 240 with Martin Buday, a guy who doesn't really have too much power in his hands, does a lot of his work with like standing cage control, not some sort of elite grappler by any stretch of the imagination. Like a lot of the things that he does well, maybe he's able to wear on him, he's probably going to have like 20 pounds or so. He's a big boy. He's carrying around a can on him for sure, but I don't know. I feel like this is a very, very clear dogger pass. Am I going to pull the trigger on Andre Arlovski? They may force my hand here, Cody. It's Arlovski for me in like a real greasy split decision, like real gross, real boring heavyweight decision. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, again, you got Waterson on a 4-fight losing streak. You want no part of it. Arlovski on a 3-fight losing streak. Not so bad because it's matchmaking. And again, we talked about Cub Swanson earlier. It's like he's such a fan favorite that you just got to keep this thing close, and they'll give it to you. And Arlovski embodies that. Yeah, it's a 3-fight losing streak. He's not the same guy he used to be. Huh? It's all the same stuff. I get it, broken record, but at the same point, he can go 15 minutes. He can just kind of like sparring type style. Mm-hmm. Not only do the judges love him, his opponents generally are big fans too. And they don't try to land that kill shot. You'll see he's been finished. I think he's been knocked out 10 or 11 times in his career. He's been submitted. Martin Buday is a training partner of Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall put this guy away. I'm sure he's telling you all the same stuff. Take him down. Fair. If you don't take him down, you have a problem on your hands, man. Again, even that last fight against Waldo Cortez Acosta, he outstruck him 58-49. It's just Costa landed the bigger shots. But it wasn't like it wasn't a typical Arlovski fight where they stand in front of each other and go at a super low volume and nobody's landing anything really of significance and it ends up being a close decision. His fight with Jake Collier, he got it landed 93-91, split decision. His fight with Jared Vandera, he got outstruck 70-64, and he won another split decision. He's made a career out of it. So when I look at this fight with Martin Buday doesn't come from an athletic background. By his own account, he was a fat kid that got into MMA as like a way of losing weight. As far as his record goes, it's like there's been a couple performances where he showed up, but largely, look at it, right? Contender Series, he fights Lorenzo Hood, who's a juiced up, just a bum. Lorenzo Hood is a bum. Then he takes on Chris Barnett in his debut. Chris Barnett is a giant fan favorite, and that generally overshadows the fact that he is a bum. But we all love him. He's our bum. But dude, he's not good. Lucas Berszewski outstruck Buday 118-66. He doubled him up, and the judges gave Buday the split decision. So when we talk about split decision narratives, Arlovski gets a bunch of them. Buday's had a few himself. And this is a fight he got doubled up in the significant strike count. So he's not had good performances. Jake Collier, tooth and nail fight. Josh Parisian, worst heavyweight on the division for quite some time. And then his last event against Shamil Gaziev. Gaziev is a step up. But it's the fact that Gaziev outstruck him 49-8. 49-8. Now, the first round consisted of a 36-7 beating, and the second round was a 13-1 beating. Now, Arlovski doesn't have that same type of punching power, so he will not earn that same level of respect. So don't expect that. And what I'm saying is that Buday is not above coming in and just crapping up a performance with low numbers. He's not the heaviest striker, right? He doesn't have giant power, doesn't have giant volume. He'd be smart to press Arlovski up against the cage, but if he doesn't take him down, then what are the judges even looking at? And if he does take him down, that's the way to beat Arlovski. But his wrestling just doesn't seem all that good. Well, he trains at Tom Aspinall. Yeah, well, he is not Tom Aspinall. And for the record, watch back Arlovski versus Aspinall. Tommy is goddamn happy he got that rear naked choke when he did, because Andre is putting it on him and coming on like a freight train. So maybe I'm just too big of an Andre Arlovski mark, but me and two of the three judges are giant Andre Arlovski marks. And if this thing is relatively competitive, Andre's going to squeak out the shittiest of split decisions. It might be the PRP pick. I don't have any faith in it whatsoever. No. How could you? But I'm seeing all the same stuff you're seeing, and I agree largely with a lot of the points.
Yeah, it's a winnable fight for Andre Arlovski in the year 2024. A heavyweight that doesn't have like crippling stand-up power. That doesn't mean that he couldn't land the perfect shot and knock out Andre Arlovski. Like we've seen, guys you wouldn't expect to do it before. But yeah, Arlovski, you said it perfectly at the beginning. Like if Arlovski wins this fight, it's like a hero worship. Staying at the outside, it's a sparring match for 15 minutes. It's razor close, and Andre Arlovski gets his hand raised. Like, we've seen it time and time again, and Martin Buday's style matches up kind of perfectly for that narrative to play out. We got Ray Tsuruya taking on Carlos Hernandez, minus 500 for Tsuruya. Carlos Hernandez can be had for plus 375. Who you got here?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not super. I don't know a lot. Ray Tsuruya. Like from what I have seen, the guy is another one of these Tatsuya Taira types. Very young Japanese fighter, 22 years old, and I mean, honestly, I kind of like him as much as I like Taira. Like his wrestling looks better than Taira's. His striking, similar to Tatsuya, is a work in progress, but he's wily. He likes to throw down, but mostly he's throwing down. He's creating a chaotic scene. He's creating a scramble, and he ends up on your back. He's got a nasty back take. Once he gets into a rear naked position, he usually delivers on the good. He's got a good gas tank. Japan is starting to produce some prospects again. You got to take note. He is one of them. Fights on the deep scene and the pancreas scene, those are generally fairly low level. Fought good guys, but Japanese on Japanese MMA is a little bit wonky. There's no like power wrestling. There's none of that. But to his credit, he jumps on that road to UFC. So at least they're going to get you guys from different countries, right? First round fight takes on a guy from Indonesia. Second round, Kimura looked good. This Mark Klamako fight, Klamako is actually American. He trains out of American Kickboxing Academy. Parents are, I think, from Malaysia or something like that. So he qualified for the show. But he's actually pretty good, dude.
Did he win the show? Like, is that show still going on? Like, how did he end up with this fight? Because he won his fight.
Yeah, he won his fight, and these are all flyweight fights, right? So to my knowledge, there was supposed to be like a flyweight final. I don't know who he was supposed to fight in said flyweight final, but I don't think when he beat this Jin Yu Shioi, another solid performance from him, I don't think it was the tournament final. So I'm thinking either the other guy pulled out or they just realized, hey, this kid's UFC quality, or more than likely, Carlos Hernandez was supposed to fight Cody Durden. Cody Durden got replaced. They needed a guy at the 11th hour. Yeah. And this kid looks pretty goddamn good, man. Like he looks pretty good. I don't know like maybe he was already stateside or maybe whatever this. I don't know that part of it. But what I do know is like he's another one of these young kids that create scrambles. He's good at getting on the back. He's a problem. He's young. He's green. He can get exposed, but for what it is, yeah, he's well on his way and heading in the right direction. Carlos Hernandez, I wouldn't call him a bust by any means, but like he's serviceable. Like he's not young. He's 30 years old. At flyweight, it's not the end all be all, but you're starting to get up there. And again, he can throw up volume. He's a clean striker. His takedown defense leaves a little bit to the imagination, but he's good at stuffing for the most part and getting back up. He's, again, just very serviceable. I want to call him a gatekeeper type. He can give young prospects a go. He can give aged veterans a go. That middle ground, that jump up in competition, it does not seem like he's going to be able to get around it. The problem for me, though, is that his fight with Alan Nascimento, he's defending. He's doing excellent defending. Nascimento pushes him up against the cage, slinks onto his back, and gets the rear naked choke. That's the kind of stuff that Ray does. That's the kind of stuff that Tatsuya Taira does. That's the kind of stuff that Hernandez has problems with. He can stuff the initial shot. He can stuff that second. He can maybe do good in chain wrestling situations. Eventually, you're going to hit the mat. It's a 125-pound fight. They're all going to hit the mat. They're all going to end up with some guy on the other guy's back. There's lots of transitions. And when he makes that one small mistake is when his opponents capitalize. Again, versus Tatsuya Taira, he did the same thing. He stuffed the early takedowns. Part of the reason I was fading Taira against Alex Perez a couple weeks ago was Hernandez made him look pedestrian with his takedowns. But unfortunately, he didn't need it. He just blasts him with the left hand and topples him over. As soon as he hit Hernandez, he hurt him. As soon as he hurt him, that's when he gets the fight to the ground. And as soon as he's on top of him, he mauls him. I feel like Ray has a lot of the same qualities, is that he may struggle in the initial takedown or two, but he'll use his speed, he'll use his striking. He may be getting the worst end of it in certain exchanges, but at some point he forces the takedown. At some point he gets on top of Hernandez, takes his back, makes him pay, gets the win. Short notice has got me worried. 22 years old got me worried. Undefeated Japanese kid, a couple red flags here and there. But skill for skill, I just feel like it's going to end up in a grappling exchange, and he's a lot better of a grappler. So, I'll take Ray to get the job done.
Yeah. I mean, there's big time red flags for Carlos Hernandez in the fact that like on the Contender Series got taken down 5 times by Daniel Barres. Even last time out against Dennis Bondar, getting taken down twice by Dennis Bondar. When this Ray Tsuruya guy is like, putting up eight takedowns against Klimico or whatever on road to the UFC. The takedowns should be there for this kid, and if he's as good at like back takes and stuff, that could be one of those annoying situations where Hernandez is just good enough to keep himself out of trouble and just like, it's like an early Taira fight where it's like he just grabs your back and you're kind of just stuck for over the course of the next 5 minutes. Not a fight I really have too much interest in betting, to be perfectly honest. I'll see what Ray Tsuruya is all about before I jump on the train, particularly because they're giving me him at -500. So it's like this was obviously a pretty big step up in competition. Carlos Hernandez has been in there and kind of shown us what he can do. I can't say the same thing for Ray quite yet. And -500 is just they're pricing me out of it at this price. Finally, we got Ricky Simón taking on Vinicius Oliveira, -240 for Ricky Simón. Vinicius Oliveira can be had for +200. Feel like this is a good bounce back opportunity for Ricky Simón here, Cody. Everything was going in his direction. People were talking like after the Jack Shore win. Everyone was talking about, is this kind of like the dark horse in the division? Wrestling's on point. It had been a while since, the Uriah Faber knockout back in 2019. Everything was starting to go in his direction. Song Yadong was able to take him down, but was obviously pretty outclassed on the feet. The Mario Bautista fight was pretty bad too, but I feel like Mario Bautista training with Sugar Sean O'Malley every single day, it's like it's taken his game to a whole new level in this division. Now he's -240, which is still chalk, but it's like against a pretty unproven commodity. So I went back and I watched Bernardo Sopai versus Oliveira. And it's like Sopai's getting takedowns early. Sopai takes him down and like goes right into mount in round 1. The striking's pretty competitive. The only thing anybody's gonna remember from that fight, is the flying knee, absolutely brutal, finish. No doubt in my mind, Vinicius Oliveira could do that. We have seen Ricky Simón knocked out before. I don't know. Bernardo Sopai is taking you down, finding those entries pretty easily. I think Ricky Simone, mind his P's and Q's, stay out of trouble, don't need a flying knee up the middle. It should just be like one-way traffic in the wrestling department. Does he get the finish? Potentially. I'm tempted by like him inside the distance at like plus 185 that I see, because I can't really like parse between submission or knockout. But I think it should be like an absolute destruction in the grappling department between the two of these guys. I think Ricky Simone gets the takedowns whenever he wants. And the nice thing about parlaying him early, Cody, is I can rebuild if he blows everything up on the first fight.
Yeah, that's a fact. Is that yeah, you could rebuild, get it out of the way early. Trust me, better to get it out of the way early than when it's like the co-main event or the main event, and it's like, oh, I'm done across the board. You're not wrong. This is how you know it's a good pay-per-view. The very first fight on the card is Ricky Simone versus Vinicius Oliveira. It's an amazing fight. You have a mega prospect in this Ray Tsuruya against a legitimate step up. You have a former world champion, Andre Arlovski, buried on the prelims. Solid women's MMA. The next coming of Payton Talbott. Fun fight, Charles Jourdain, John Silva. Cub Swanson, he's a legend. This is the kind of card of my dad say, who's on it? Andre Arlovski, Cub Swanson, you know these guys. Solid offering. But Ricky got to do something because he shouldn't be the curtain jerker on a card. You know, this guy has legitimate talent. He's still only 31 years old. This is his physical prime. Now, 100% you're right. He struggled in those last two outings, but against Song Yadong, he won the first round. He used excellent striking. He was moving him backwards. You can see that it was a new wrinkle to his game, but he's a wrestler. Gotta get the takedowns. Live or die by the takedowns. And unfortunately, Song Yadong, team alpha male, solid base, wasn't able to consistently do it. He loses that fight. Mario Batista, as you mentioned, you know, he's got excellent striking, but he's another guy with just excellent wrestling. He got Batista down twice. It's just not enough. He needs to go back to taking on Jack Shore, 2 takedowns. Rafael Sunsao, 2 takedowns. Brian Keller, 6. Gaetano Perello, 7. Ray Borg, 7. Rob Font, 6. Ronnie Yaya, 4. Montel Jackson, 7. Donovan Frilo, 14. This guy, we know what he does best. It's that they tried to move him to top 5, top 10 level of competition. Unfortunately for my boy Ricky, Slick Ricky, Pretty Ricky, just not quite there. This fight with Vinicius Oliveira, it ain't going to be easy. The dude's 5'9". He's huge for the weight class, and he throws bombs. When you watch him on the regional scene, his win condition is very much, he's going to knock you out. When you watch him in his losses, he's giving the guys hell until he gets knocked out. That fight with Ali Taleb from UAE Warriors, you can go back and watch that one. He wins the first 2 rounds. He drops Taleb in the second round. In the third round, he's winning. There's like 2 minutes left on the clock, and he just walks into a nuclear right hand that folds him up. He's been finished in all 3 of his pro losses. He has an amateur loss as well, was finished in that one. He doesn't have great durability. He is, I'm not going to call him a glass cannon, but he is a offensive dynamo and defensively leads a lot to the imagination. It's just like you said, though, it's the takedown defense that I think he's going to have issues with. He has struggled with some wrestling in the past, but notably Bernardo Sopai. Bernardo Sopai is not a big guy. In fact, when you saw them both in the cage, it was like, damn, dude, Vinicius is twice his size. Bernardo also Swedish fighter. Well, he's Albanian, but Albanian fighter living in Sweden. And you know, trains at All-Stars, working on his grappling, but for the most part, it's not his base, and it's not where he's comfortable at. And he still managed 3 takedowns over Vinicius. He was still doing very good until, like you mentioned, crazy flying knee, and that's what people remember. But I think when you're 5'9", you generate a lot of power. You're big for the weight class. The downside to that is he cuts a lot of weight. He doesn't have this cast iron cardio, and his takedown defense isn't all that good. High center of gravity, too focused on throwing big strikes. So Ricky Simone, if he can just get back to where he was prior to these 2 losses, he's going to feast on him. Offensively, just go forward, get a hold of him, peel him to the ground, rinse and repeat all night. Even the version that showed up against Song Yadong beats this guy. The version that showed up versus Mario Batista probably beats this guy, but he didn't look as good. And if that's going to be the trend on Ricky, he's now second-guessing himself, and he's relying more on his striking and less on his wrestling. And he's been chinned a few times, most notably Raya Faber dropped him on his ass. So, like, don't stand with Vinicius, dog. Shoot the takedown right away. And if you don't, like Paul said, it's the first fight on the card, so I'm going to have to rebuild because it ain't going to go good for you if you don't shoot constant takedowns.
Exactly. Just like if the fight starts and he's just hanging out at range, eating shots, not shooting takedowns, I'd be already looking to see if I have to rebuild here because things could get dicey. And obviously it's a dangerous opponent, but it's the UFC. They're all pretty dangerous opponents. It's a big step down in competition from what Ricky Simón has done. And frankly, 2 straight losses. This is like your classic UFC fight, right? You have Contender Series coming up this summer. Ricky's been around for a while. He's probably making half decent coin. You got to win this fight. Because this is your classic 3 straight losses, and you lost to a guy who's relatively new on the scene. Like, this is how you get cut from the UFC. So it's for Ricky Simón, it's probably a pink slip fight, as far as I could tell.
You should have told me that, Paul. Now I'm overthinking it because I'll tell you what.
Which means he's going to be more likely to get the takedown.
No, if I'm Ricky's manager, I'm like, Ricky, you were a shoo-in to make $1 million in PFL, dog. What are we doing here? Fair. What are we doing here? Yeah, hopefully Ricky doesn't throw it. If he just does what he does, fights out his contract, he can still go and win $1 million in PFL.
100%. All right, we are just about out of time. But before we go, hit him with the PRP.
Yeah, going with the PRP again, it seems short on underdogs. Like, if you would have bet these on Monday, got a couple decent underdogs, but the market's wise to it, man. Pay-per-views, a lot of work gets put into these. People are scouting it out. But we're going with Alex Pereira. Brian Ortega is going to be dog number 1. Roman deletes. Macy Chaisson would have been dog number 2. The line keeps flipping, I suppose. We're going to go with Ian Garry, Joe Pyfer. Pyfer got a bad feeling about, but all the same, got to roll with it. Gonna go with Fili. That's a bad news one too. Jean Silva, was he slight underdog still? Maybe that's dog 3.
Pick him on my board.
Pick him. Yeah, again, it's hard for me to say I got underdogs. I got some pick'ems, but no one can fault me for that, I don't think. Payton Talbott, Gillian Robertson, Andre Arlovski. There's a bona fide dog. And we're going with Tsuruya and Ricky Simón. So competitive card, good card. But one of these pay-per-views that it's not like, oh, I dig the interwebs to find 2 fights from this guy. It's like you got lots of info. You know what they're going on. They're popular on social media. There's lots of tape to go through. It's just once the cage door closes, you need the right fighter to fight the right game plan and get the right result. And by right results, like you can do everything right and the judges still bum you one. So as much as I've been complaining about it, and I really have, they bailed me out on Nasra Akparas last weekend. So I'm not gonna say anything there. Sometimes you get the bounces, sometimes you don't. It is what it is. Hopefully we can get a good one going this one. UFC 303, as I said, super pumped up about it. But yeah, it'd be a fun and competitive card for the most part.
100%. All right, that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For producer Megan for the last time and Cody Saftik, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.
Oh!